Button has been pressed.
He is hitting the button. It's been pressed, and we're live. We're going to fade in nice and beautiful right there. What's going on, everybody? Thursday evening, Fish North Georgia is alive. Well, glad that you guys are joining us tonight. We got a star-studded, and I mean star-studded, panel here tonight to talk some fishing with you guys. Definitely that side of the room. The star-studness is on that side of the room a lot. You can see right there. Got a couple great guests, and we're going to talk a lot of stuff. Captain Mack is in the house. Terry.
Jersey Cat.
O'Shaughnessy.
Yeah.
Every time Terry's on, I seem to murder his last name. I do my best. I try, but it is what it is.
He's used to it.
He's used to it. Let's just say Terry's here. But Captain Mack and Terry are in the house, and, of course, Ryan's here. Paul's behind the controls. Everybody's here, and we're going to have a good evening talking fishing. Of course, let's get some business out of the way right here. The introduction tonight. This first part is brought to you by Buford Dam Bait and Tackle. Guys, you know where it's at off of Buford Dam Road, 2595. Hey, Dave and Alan and the guys, again, you've heard me say it over and over again. They'll give you what you need to catch fish, not what they want to sell you. They're only going to give you the stuff. Great people, great service. Captain Mack has some products in their store.
We do. They carry our stuff.
They do. So there you go. So guys, listen, if it's spotted bass, striper, trout down behind the dam, go to Buford Dam Bait and Tackle. Tell them the guys at Fish North Georgia sent you, and we appreciate their support. If you're watching tonight on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We're doing something a little bit different tonight. We also got a TikTok live going. Off camera a little bit, so those of you that are watching on TikTok, good to see you guys here. Again, if you're watching this at a later date, we appreciate you too on YouTube. Make sure you go to our Facebook group page at Fish North Georgia. We've got the Instagram, we've got the Twitter, we've got the TikTok that's really blowing up, guys. You need to follow us over there. And also, one little thing, you guys know about the Patreon that we do. Earlier today, actually just before we came on right now, Captain Mack sat down with me one-on-one for about an hour. You guys can go check that out there, the Patreon at Fish North Georgia. Some very insightful stuff. We get to know Mack a little bit better. We hope you will go over there, like and subscribe that thing over there. And, again, any of these one-on-one podcasts, that's where it's going. Have I missed anything so far, Ryan?
You're developing a new catchphrase.
What is that?
That thing over there.
That thing over there. So
stuff like that. That thing over there.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. That thing over there. So go to that thing over there.
Like 4 times.
Did I already? Yeah. All right, so listen.
Not that anybody's counting.
Not that anybody's counting. Well,
one person is.
Ryan is, because
he's got you on the
show that I was telling you about that we're filming, I have a bad phrase of saying stuff like that.
Stuff like that.
And I say it a lot more than I thought I said it. Now I'm trying to cut back on that, and I'm listening to all these other guys say it. So now I'm going to, what's the catchphrase now?
Huh?
What am I saying?
You were saying, oh, God, I can't remember now.
That thing over there.
That thing over there. All right. So all of you people watching in the comments, good evening to you. I see a lot of people, of course, Jeremiah, guys. Casey Blanton, what's up? Doug Phillips, all you guys that are here. Derek White, there you go. April Upperman, that's a new name for me. Hey, glad you could join us tonight. Bent Rods Charter Company, there you go. So, hey, listen, make sure over the course of this evening, as the topics get going along, as we get discussing stuff, throw your questions up there. That's what that's for, and your comments, your questions, so that we can have these fine gentlemen answer them. And
Sponsored by Aquafina.
We're sponsored by Aquafina as well. So any of you people know the people that work for Aquafina, get us some money. We can do that. It's all about the almighty dollar, right? So anyway, but hey, look, a lot of stuff we're going to talk about tonight, stuff that if you pay attention to, you can learn. It's going to make you a better angler, especially you Lake Lanier guys, but this will transfer everywhere. Hartwell, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Stuff that we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Relevant. We're going to talk about the time of the year, the conditions, what these guys are seeing out on the water. So definitely in the comments section. What's up, Jason? You throw the questions out there. So Mack, it's kind of hard to introduce you like I just did it an hour ago. So, but I'm going to do it again. Mack, thanks for joining us. How's your day been?
Good. I appreciate you guys having us up. Like we talked about, we've been trying to get this together a while. I'm glad we finally got it to come together here, so that's good.
I love it when we have people on here that are knowledgeable, that know a whole lot more than I do, which doesn't take much. But like I told you, I appreciate your ability to enunciate and use complete sentences and stuff like that. So
you're very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll say that about you too, Terry. I don't want to say that you can't.
No, I'm just an extra in this movie today.
No, you are a well-spoken.
You are a well-spoken individual. And Terry showed up, and we said, hey, while you're here, jump on board. So that's why he's here tonight. We always enjoy Terry when he comes up. So, Mac, let's start off. I'm going to give you a softball one, an easy one. What you seeing on the water right now?
Well, fishing was really good. It slowed down the last couple of weeks. Terry probably verify that. We're in that deal now where we're getting the big rain dumps, the big cold fronts, and the water stays in just a state of change all the time. And that's going to be our challenge, I think, for the next, really looking at the weather forecast, 3 or 4 weeks. We're going to got a lot of rain in the forecast, more cold fronts. They roll in pretty frequently this time of year. So versatility and it's going to be the key.
Yeah, and it's been pretty tough lately. You were saying like that.
Well,
you foresee it kind of going on here for
I see a lot of ups and downs.
Right.
Water conditions are going to change. We've got that dirty water coming in, and you can use that to your advantage a lot of times after it moderates. But, yeah, we're going to have a lot of transition, and that's February. That's not at all abnormal. This is to be expected. So be versatile. Really watch that change in water. That's going to be our challenge as anglers the next few weeks. And I got to address one thing there. We got a comment there from my buddy.
Already,
Derek.
here we go.
Well, yeah, Derek, I saw where they closed grouper season, and I'll call and we'll whine about that one day next week. 'Cause I'm not real happy about that.
Yeah, because you do a lot of fishing on shore fishing. You go down to Florida a good bit and stuff like that.
Grouper.
Yeah.
I love grouper.
Well, from our
fishing.
conversation earlier, you love to catch everything. If
Yeah.
it swims, you enjoy catching.
Yeah, I
on
was about to
board.
say, according to Mac, he has not found anything that he does not enjoy catching yet.
Yeah, that's what we got.
Still looking for
For that one like that. So let's I believe most people that are going to be watching, they know you, but for those that are not watching, let's tell them a little bit about who Captain Mack is and what you do.
Well, we are a guide on Lake Lanier and have been for a long, long time.
A long, long time.
Yeah, we also own a small manufacturing business. We make a lot of striper-related products, and we're a distributor for a lot. So we're into the fishing / tackle business right up to our eyeballs.
Right.
And wouldn't have it any other way.
But your love of it is guiding and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, just being on the water, and I love to see people catch fish. I love to be able to help people make memories on the water. And,
Right.
That's good. That's good stuff to me. That really brings it full circle. That's what makes it worthwhile.
Absolutely. And before we forget, let's go ahead and let's shout out your social media so that after this show, and I mean afterwards, not now, but after this show, you can go search Captain Mack. Where can we find
absolutely. Our website's CaptainMax.com. We're Facebook, Instagram. We just started TikTok. We're kind of new to that, but we're going to try to ramp that up. So pretty much we're on all the platforms, and check them out. Join us. We try and do a lot of things a lot of product information, and we do a fishing report we release it every Friday night. And as you said, it's produced from data or information on Lake Lanier, but it probably has relevance to a lot of the lakes in the Southeast. So
That's
it might get you pointing in the right direction for a Saturday trip, and we put that on the Facebook page every Friday.
Yeah, we mentioned kind of earlier today, Hartwell, you grew up around that area and stuff, so extensive knowledge with that lake and all that. That's a pretty good striper fishery, is it
Hartwell's
not?
just an excellent fishery, period. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, it's very good.
Now, do you like Lake Lanier better than Hartwell?
Probably so,
Yeah.
because I really love spots.
Yeah.
I love big spots, and we got them. Not that Hartwell doesn't. Hartwell's turned into a pretty dynamic spot fishery as well. But yeah, Lanier's just that's home. That's where I'm.
I got you. Terry, we had a comment over there that would like you to smile. Could you please smile, Terry? There we go. He does smile. But to be honest, he's serious tonight because we have a legend in the house, and we're trying.
Yeah, I got to be on my P's.
He's got to be on his P's and Q's because we got a legend. We got to learn something. What's up, Kurt Wee Hunt? I want to do a little bit kind of like what we did a little earlier. I want to hit for the bass guys, and then we're going to spend the majority of it, though, on the stripers and the guys, especially with Terry in here. But for bass guys, what was interesting, and again, you guys got to go watch the one-on-one, talked about how Lake Lanier's changed over the years and stuff like that. But, like, right now, where are you finding spots when you go out?
I think your best overall pattern, and again, factor in things are changing, a lot of movement. But that ditch bite's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And what I would really caution people there, you go to a ditch and you catch them in it one day, you go back there 2 days later, the next day, 3, they're not there. We're seeing that kind of movement. But that pattern overall is very solid. And I think the nice thing about it, you can do it all over the lake. So you can get in the middle or lower part of the lake where you don't have those big influxes of dirty water. And you kind of insulate yourself from some of that change.
Gotcha. Now, your guide business, though, predominantly stripers.
Yeah, it is.
predominantly stripers. Now, we're really bass heavy. We don't get as many guests on here that talk about stripers, so it's a little foreign to us and all that. Tell us what makes Lake Lanier such a great striper fishery.
Well, Lanier's for so many years had a really nice mix of size and numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We've produced some really big fish over the years. Right now, we're in a place where we're not our big fish. Let's qualify big. 20 pounds.
Yeah.
We don't see that fish with the frequency we did in the early 2000s, and we'll talk about that because I get this question all the time.
Oh, we're going to talk about it. Yep.
Okay. We had a period of 4 years, years 9, 10, 11, and 12, where the fish that were stocked had really, really low recruitment rates. Not really sure why, and they just didn't live. Okay. You miss 1 year class, you don't feel it.
You can stomach it. But
Yeah, it's
4
not
in
a
a
big
row?
deal. 2, you feel. 3 hurts. The 4th one's kicking the
Yeah.
teeth. I mean, and we're seeing that now. So those fish stocked in those years would have been your fish that are roughly 32, 30, 33 inches and above. And they're not there in number. Now, that's not to say there's not some out there. We're still seeing some big fish. The good news is the fish in your classes behind that seem to be doing really well. The fish on Lanier, and Terry, you'll vouch for this,
Yeah.
they look really good.
Yeah.
We're-
The healthiest I've seen them in years.
beautiful fish, big, thick, heavy-bodied fish, and we're seeing a lot of fish in that 30-inch
Yeah.
range, and some low fish in the low teens. So, if you have a history with the lake that goes back to the late 90s, early 2000s, where we saw those big fish, that's what's happened. It's not you guys. You guys are great anglers. They're not. Your fish. Don't blame yourself. It's not there. They're going to come back most probably.
I'm gonna keep that for myself.
There you
I'm
go.
not gonna blame
A
myself.
good sign of that was our buddy Wyatt Richards caught one. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It was reposted on the GON
Yeah.
Facebook page. I think it was 33
34.
pounds,
Okay,
34
yeah.
pounds. That's the kind of fish that you like to see, and it was healthy. It was fat,
Beautiful
it was long,
fish.
and it looked great.
And we should start seeing that. We got to be patient because you got to realize these fish we're talking about at 30 inches. Those fish are almost 10 years old.
Yeah.
Now to get him up to that,
The 30 plus pounders that we were catching back in 2014, 15, 16, they from DNR's they were stocked in 2002, 2003 era.
right?
So it took 12 to 14 years
Yeah.
to go to 30 pounders.
And so it's going to take us another
Yeah.
few years to get those fish, but everything looks good, and I want to encourage people. A lot of people I think are a little bit, I don't know what's the right terminology, but they like those big fish,
Yeah.
and they saw them on a somewhat regular basis, and now we're not. But that's what's happening. They'll come back, be patient, and we should get back to where we
but
were.
those 30 pounders came from strong year classes like we have now.
Yes, and that
So
these are all put
I'm
and take
hopeful for the
fish.
future.
Yeah, they're even though our stripers spawn in Lake Lanier per se, they go up in the river and they lay there, or at least some of them do. But for a striper to spawn successfully, that egg has to float in moving water
Yep.
for about 2 or 3 days. So you got to have a really big, slow river like the Altamaha, Savannah. Our river's not big
Comes
enough. Yeah, they go up there and they spawn. The eggs don't fertilize, so they're solely reliant on being stocked. And there's a lot of things, and I think our DNR's done a great job of determining the factors to elevate this recruitment and survival rates, and we're seeing the fruits of that now. So if you be patient, I think Lanier will get back to where it was, and you'll have a nice mix. We'll still have plenty of fish.
Oh, yeah.
But you always have that shot at that really big fish, which really is what I think made Lanier special really all through the 90s and 2000s. Great numbers, great average size, with always the opportunity for a really, really big striper.
Let me ask you this: do you ever experience or feel, whether secondary or however, the animosity between the bass guys and the striper guys? Do you see that? Do you feel that in anything?
I think it's not a big deal. There is some,
Yeah.
but
It's not widespread, though.
I think not. I think for the most part we get along pretty well. There's always going to be some instances. I think sometimes stripers can be a scapegoat.
That's where I was going to go next.
Yeah.
You know, I hear a lot of, stripers are bad for the spotted bass. 'Cause we've talked about spotted bass and what a treasure Lanier is on that. But it's also a striper lake as well. It's just as strong as striper lake, don't
It's
you think?
just a strong lake. If anybody's disgruntled with Lake Lanier right now as a bass fisherman, explain me. I don't get it. It's strong
Right.
as an ox.
Yeah.
The stripers are doing well. They tend to separate themselves. They tend to have a different diet. We've all heard the story where somebody had a bass and they had a striper try and eat it. Most times, honestly, I think that striper was following the bass, picking up what he was regurgitating in most cases. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but most states have studied stripers do not eat bass on a regular basis, certainly not enough to have a negative impact on fish.
Less than 1% of their
It's
diet is
very-
made up of bass and something.
It's very minimal. So that argument's really it's not valid. And look, we got guys catching plenty of stripers. We got guys catching monstrous sacks of spotted bass consistently. The lake's good. Everybody's getting along
And you
fine.
point to places like Flat Creek, and there's 6 acres of threadfin shad. They don't.
But our forage
They don't
base
have
is
to eat
strong.
a bass. There's
Right.
Gotcha.
Our forage species are overabundant, if
Yes.
anything.
I got you. Pull up that comment by old Kurt right there. Let's throw this at Captain Mac. Do you think the difference in the long torpedo-like fish versus the thicker body fish are genetics or mostly diet from the stocking
That's
age?
a great question.
It is
Kurt.
a great question.
That's a
I
very
can't
good
believe
question.
Kurt come up with that.
think it
No, I'm
could
just
be,
kidding, Kurt.
He's
We
a
love
Dodger
you.
fan.
You know,
He's
we-
a Dodger fan. We have to understand who Kurt Wehunt is, but we love Kurt. Yeah. So, what's your opinions? Either
I
one of
think a
you.
lot of it has to do with male and female fish too. Like, because we actually caught some fish the other day in a tournament that were the same length. One was a 31, one was like a 31 and a half, 32-inch fish, 32 or 33, I can't remember. But one was built like a bulldog. I mean, big shoulders on. When we both got in the boat, I'm like, that's a 20-pounder. It only weighed like 13, but
Right. I understand. Yeah.
my eye scale was uncalibrated that day.
I
But that
understand.
fish had big shoulders on, big, robust, healthy fish. And then we caught another fish shortly after that. Healthy fish just didn't have the same body makeup, it didn't have the same weight. That fish was 2 pounds smaller. And to me, I kind of feel like that might have been a male and a female difference.
So yeah, educate us, Mac, on the differences between a male and a female. Like with the bass, we understand buck bass are always going to be smaller than the
Yeah.
females, or for the most part. The females grow bigger. Now, is that the same in the striped bass world?
Well, and Jerry brought up a valid point. I think that is valid, and particularly this time of year, and if we move a little further into February and March, again, we've got a false spawn, but that female is still full of roe. So she's going to be at a really good weight in the next few weeks. I think to some degree it's male versus female. I think to some degree it is forage. And they're like people. Some of us are bigger than others. We're built different. People are built different. So I think some of it, and that probably goes back to the genetics. But yeah, there's a lot of variables, and I think forage certain times of year can have a big impact on that.
Okay, and so would we say in Lanier that the primary diet of the striped bass is blueback herring?
I think so. When you
That's
agree with that,
we would agree that's the primary.
Depends. Some years it seems threadfin. Some years it seems bluebacks. But
thread fins are always part of the picture.
yeah.
Thread fins, bluebacks. What would be an optional if they couldn't find those two? What would a striper go to?
It'd probably be tough on them, and bluebacks are a really good nutrient source.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's one reason our spots do so well. I
Mhm.
think our
I would believe
forage
that.
base, because again, going back to before herring and before stripers, we didn't have big spots.
hmm
It was threads, and we had lots of them, good numbers, but they didn't get big. And the herring have really changed that. But yeah, I think herring's probably optimal, probably
Okay.
better than gizzards. I think it's a better nutrient source. We'd have to ask a biologist about that, but I think he's a better nutrient source than either shad or panfish of some sort, or brim
Okay.
or crappie.
Did I miss part of the answer? Is the female bigger by nature? Did you
I think most
with a
times,
striper.
Yes,
With a
most
striper.
times.
I think on Lanier, your max male striper is going to top out around 20, whereas the females continue.
So if you
on.
get the big, huge trophy, odds are it's a
Yeah,
female.
that's
Yeah,
a
and I was going
female.
to say, even if you subtract that springtime weight factor,
Yeah.
usually the female's going to be the bigger fish or have the opportunity to get bigger.
What's the lifespan of a striper?
On Lake Lanier, I think it's 15 years. something
15
like that.
years?
Yeah.
Okay.
15, 16.
15, probably 14, 15 is
Yeah.
pretty good. There's always going to be a few that exceed that. But yeah, that's part of the reason you see some fisheries in Tennessee where you see 40 and 50-pound fish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We don't quite have the habitat and the conditions to move that fish. You're talking about a 20-year plus fish maybe.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to get a fish to live that long in most southern impoundments, not just Lanier.
Where do our stockings come from? Where do they get those fish? Do you know?
Most of the brookfish, I think, come out of the Coosa River now, don't they? Used to.
Really? The
Yeah.
Coosa. Okay.
They used to get them from Lanier, but I don't-
Used to, all the brookfish came from Lanier, but they switched to the Coosa.
Yeah.
I'd have to look back. It's been several years. But yeah, I think they all come out of the Coosa now.
Oh, the Coosa. Okay. Is there like a hatchery over there, or
The hatchery, I know they bring them here. Well, they're raised down in Richmond Hill in Savannah.
okay? That's okay. So that's what I was wondering. So they raise them down there,
Yeah, there's
and
a
then
little
bring them
water.
up here.
So now I have a question. Do you know now the Coosa also feeds Weiss and those other lakes, and they have a lot of Gulf strain stripers. Are those Coosa River strain? Are they Gulf or Atlantic strain stripers?
Oh, you're gonna have to explain that to me. I didn't realize they were different strains.
Yes, and that
There's
Gulf
actually a
striper
relative
fish,
population of stripers in the Gulf of Mexico on the St. Johns River in Florida.
yeah. It's a little bit different fish.
Yeah.
Okay, what's
Yeah,
that?
Actually, it's a lot different.
They're
Fish.
built. If you look at when they get big, like they're not as long, but they get grotesquely fat.
Yeah, they stop growing. They stop growing
those
long.
are
They start
dandy
getting
fish.
They start
round.
growing this
Yeah,
way.
their growth continues.
Yeah.
But
They're dandy fish.
I don't know if there's still a sustained population of fish over there that aren't Gulf Stream. Or
Yeah.
that's a question we'd have to ask Hunter. That's
Because
a
I
good
know
question.
West Point is Gulf Strain stripers.
Yeah,
Which is preferable?
I think the Gulf Strain stripers grow bigger, faster. The
Faster?
world record world record landlocked striper that the old man caught in the Black Warrior River in Alabama was a Gulf Strain striper. But that striper got this big, and then it got that
He was
wide.
huge. I think the pounds per year or inches
Yeah.
per year, however you measure it, it's a little bit more dynamic.
There's a good question from
What
Derek.
is that from Derek?
Derek, he
Okay.
says, do you think if we had stock trout again, would that boost the size of the fish quicker?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, that's coming from Derek, so, you know.
That's a loaded question, ain't it? Somehow, yeah.
It is. It wouldn't hurt anything. How about that?
Well, you know, playing on that, I can remember back in the 80s, we would go camping,
Lake Castile.
you know, on, I guess it's Sawney right there above the dam and all that. And I can remember my father and my grandfather going out there in the boat and dropping down stuff and
Oh,
catching
yeah.
some really big lake
Beautiful
trout
Yeah.
from Lanier.
Uh-huh.
Those are non-existent. I'm sure there's still a few here and there, but for the most
Well,
part,
if you catch one
can't
now-
target it.
No, they're
Yeah.
very. What you got's when somebody was fishing with and they threw it back or it got off the hook or something.
That's
So
what
those
you catch now.
Yes, and that's very occasional. Or every once in a while you'll have one maybe venture out of the river for whatever reason.
Mhm.
But see, those fish were stocked. We used to get 100,000 trout a year.
Yeah.
And if you go back far enough, our water quality, and by water quality, I'm talking O2 levels. Don't confuse that with toxins. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Right.
The O2 levels were strong enough to support those trout through the summer, maybe for multiple years, and you got some really nice trout. As lakes age, they become less. The O2 levels tend to drop,
Right.
and those trout can't make it through the summer. So that was not a very efficient use of resources and money to put trout in there that would not live past June or July. So they stopped that stocking program. Oh gosh, it's been a while. It was in the 80s sometime.
Yeah.
But they stopped stocking those fish. And I think, and I don't know if it's changed since then, but that same stocking we used to get here goes into the tail race below Hartwell, where they can survive. And that was the prudent thing to do, as much as I hate to see that fishery come to a grinding halt.
Right.
Because it was good. It was really good.
So I want to make sure your opinion is those trout would have died out anyway. Because I hear a lot of people say, well, the stripers ate them up.
No, I'm not saying the stripers didn't eat some of them. Stripers like to eat
No,
trout.
But those fish wouldn't survive now hardly
They wouldn't
anyway.
make it through
At
the
least
summer.
not be plentiful.
That's why I think it took so long to break our lake record striper, because that striper lake record was set when there was still that body of trout in the water.
Why do you ever get up to Burton?
I have not fished Burton in a long time. I have fished it. Great
So why do
Lake.
you think on Burton, why do you think the striper and the trout combination up there just functions so well on Burton?
The hybrids that just can't take down the bigger trout, I don't think.
Yeah, that's and I don't think
And I don't think they stock it anymore with
They
hybrids.
haven't
and
stopped
Burton doesn't
it.
have
Yeah,
the numbers of fish. I think to
Right.
impact the trout fishery like we might here.
right.
Okay.
I'm not sure what
It's
the stock
it's
rate
a
is.
smaller impoundment, yeah.
Yeah,
but,
no, it's such a different animal with the dynamics of the stocking program, so it works
yeah.
because they produce some really nice trout up there.
hmm
Very nice trout.
Lake trout and they put rainbows in there too.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know when the last time they put an any in there, but
Oh, Henry Cowan's watching tonight.
Henry.
Listen to that question.
Similar to
This
that
is
in
great.
UGA basketball.
Yeah, why? Yeah, pull that up there. Why is striper fishing similar to that of our UGA basketball team?
Oh, Henry. I
I'm telling you what,
knew we'd have to have something like that from Mr. Henry. So
Henry, it's good to see you, bud. On the
yeah,
thing,
I got a noodle on that one, Henry.
UGA is not a basketball school. They're just not.
We're not giving up though.
We're not giving
We're
up.
gonna
And,
get
and
that. I'm an
I
avid
even watched them the other night, or was it last night? They played. Who'd they play last night?
playing
Nobody. They didn't.
They're playing well, but didn't they play Tennessee
They
or one of
didn't
them?
play well
teams?
last night.
Last night they didn't. That's actually the first Georgia basketball game I've watched this year, and I was like, but Tennessee's that good.
Tennessee's an
They're
excellent
that
ball
good.
team. Much I hate to admit that they don't have any weaknesses, and they thumped us pretty good. So we're trending upwards.
You are. You got a coach, I think,
We
that
finally
cares
got a
that can
good
do it.
coach.
Yeah, coaching it's important. Casey Blanton wants to know, how do you catch a 20-plus pound striper on Lanier? Or how do you
think it's
catch 20 plus
20-pound
pounds? So he might be talking bass.
He's
there.
being sarcastic.
Oh, is he being
Yeah,
sarcastic?
He's being sarcastic.
It's been a long day.
He
man.
literally is a weekend removed from catching over 20 pounds.
Oh, that's right. Well, Casey doesn't shop me. It's been a long day.
But
A jig.
Exactly.
Listen, actually, now we talked a little bit earlier today about jig.
Fishing question up here.
All right, where's the fishing question? Let's get that out there. This is from Rod Slinger Outdoors. What's up, guys? Two of my favorites, Jersey Cat and Captain Mack together. Is the Mini Mac or the full umbrella better at this time of year, in your opinion?
That's a good question.
That's a very
Excellent
good
question.
And I'm gonna break it down for you. I think that the big rig right now is an excellent search tool, but if you can ever find any density of fish, put the mini down, start slow trolling, and you'll beat up on them. Not they won't eat the big rig, but I think right now that slow trolling, if you got fish located, it's great. The problem, it's hard if you're trolling on the trolling motor and you're going a mile or 0.7 miles an hour, you're not saturating water. With the big rig, we're looking, we're moving, covering water. We can get in and out of an area quickly and assess it and decide either, hey, we need to do something different, move on, or swap techniques. If you get the fish under 30 feet, they'll probably bite the big rig right now too, if they're 30 and less. But that slow trolling is really, man, that's the bomb if you can find them.
Okay, yeah.
Are you also pulling the Mini Mac on umbrella rigs too? I mean, on planer boards as well?
Yes, good question. And that stealth trolling is such a different animal. I get so many questions about it. That's been so incredibly prolific the last 3 or 4 years, not just on this lake. I get feedback from guys.
Yeah.
Zach Royce up there at Gaston just kills them doing that. I got guys on Hartwell doing it. But yeah, I usually use the planer boards, and the principles are the same with live bait. Well, for one, we just made our footprint exponentially bigger. We've just made a boat.
However many boards you can get out there.
Yeah, we're about, I wrote 50, 60 feet wide instead of 8
Yep.
if we're fishing bait straight down. So yeah, I use a combination, but I almost always put at least a couple on the boards. A lot of times I'll start with 2 straight down, 2 on the boards. And again, once I get in that place where I'm catching them, then I might go with 4 down and 4 on boards. If I, when I'm committed to a place, because that's a lot of hardware to have in the water if you want to move.
Yeah.
It's time consuming. But to answer your question, yeah, that's how I would break it down. They're both very relevant, but that big rig, particularly with the water conditions we've got now, what a great search tool, and that's all about finding them.
Excellent answer. All right, we're gonna shout out one of our fine sponsors right now, For Her Outdoor Apparel, guys. Hey, listen, you've heard us talk about it. Hey, women's clothing for the outdoors. They're trying to get more women into the outdoors, and Miss Jennifer and Miss Peyton. Miss Peyton do an excellent job. We want you to go over there and check them out at forheroutdoor.com. We've got some of their apparel upstairs as well here at the shop. Just great people. Just absolutely great people. It's a great company, and they're doing the right thing. And I want to go ahead and piggyback that. You guys announced last week. Where is it? Right where?
There in front of. It's actually right. In
Oh,
front
is
of
this
that.
what you read last week?
Yeah.
I did not know that. So, again, hey, we're going to do an event. All right? Let me make sure I get. This says hot dogs. I see hot dogs on this. Here we go. All right, we got that, you guys. If you go on Fish North Georgia, if you go on For Her Outdoors,
Put it right up over your face.
put it right up over my
Perfect.
face. Is that it? So we've got this event coming up in April, Mary Alice Park. Basically what it is, it's Let's Go Fishing is their slogan. It's going to be a fundamental fishing clinic for women and children. And the cool thing about this is it's free to them to come. They just got to register, and we're getting all that set up, right? Is it set up yet to register?
Yeah, you can
There's a
register
link?
right now. It's at Eventbrite. It's a link when you go on the Eventbrite page, and then there's a link and you scroll down and it's right there. It says "Let's Go Fishing." I'll have to get a better step-by-step process for next week.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do a TikTok. We'll do all that. Here's what's cool.
Registered.
Here's what's really cool about this. Not only are they going to learn the fishing fundamentals, but they're also going to get every participant that registers is going to get a rod and a reel, a tackle box, a T-shirt, and yours truly. I'm going to be cooking hot dogs and hamburgers and all that. There's going to be a lot of people out there instructing them, and this is supposed to be an event where we all need to share the sport again with people that don't fish. Women. We had the show last week, but sometimes they're intimidated. They don't know. This is a show, an event where we're going to be able to get them out, show them the basics, get them to experience the love of it. And also, especially if they're like a single mom or something that's got a teenage boy, hey, give them a reason to spend some more time with them. Go out, fish with them, stuff like that. So this is a really important event. You guys, I would love for you to be able to share it, talk about it. We want to make this huge, but I think it's really cool what For Her is doing, putting an event on like this, and it's right up their alley. And Ryan, Miss Jennifer said you're repping her well. Pull that shirt down a little bit. Put that camera on Ryan right there.
Well, I
Ryan,
got a camera on me.
you ain't got a camera. Well, there you go. He's got.
I've got my trusty for her hat on and my hoodie, and I can tell you this: they're extremely comfortable.
They're extremely comfortable, and
Yeah.
that's another thing. It's not just for women. The clothes on their shop, they have guys stuff there. I've got several of their sweatshirts and stuff like that. So, really good stuff, really good people. We want to thank them so much for sponsoring the Livewell. We can't do it without great sponsors. Help.
Yes,
I don't even know what word. I can't even explain how important they are.
they are.
They are very important. But again, Miss Jennifer, we appreciate that. And Ryan really enjoyed the, what kind of cupcake was that?
It was a bunt cake.
Bunt cake.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, wherever she got them, if you go get that red velvet bunt cake, that thing is off the charts right there. So, again, we appreciate that. You guys go to forheroutdoor.com and check them out. So,
I
there
wanted
you
to
go.
ask Matt one more question.
Ask
If
it,
anybody
go ahead.
wants to do any stealth trolling, what size planer boards are you using to pull those with?
I'm using. You can use the 10 or the 7.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll both hold that mini up fine. At that speed, the big one will handle a little more speed and a little more rough water. But as far as floating at that speed, they're both fine. So if you've
Good
got
deal.
one or the other, you don't need to go get an extra set to do that.
All right, that's awesome.
Good question.
I want to pull up this question from David up there at the top. He wants to know, when does the top water striper bite?
Yes.
Start on tuna.
Not the strippers, but the striper.
If I had to pick a date, I really like that early April time frame. I've caught them earlier than that. I like to see the water in the 60s.
Yeah.
I think that's when it's more. That's when it becomes consistent and prolific. You may have bite. You may get activity before that, but yeah, I look for early April, and then it just gets better leading into the herring spawn and stuff.
Now, we know you like the top water bite.
Yeah.
You love the top water bite. How about you? Compared to the everything else you do, the umbrella rigs and all that, how is the top water bite different, and especially for your clients? Which do they enjoy more?
I don't know anybody that doesn't like to catch a fish with top water. It's great for my clients because so many times when you're throwing a top water, you're fishing for bass and stripers, whether you target them or not. 'Cause they tend to be in the same places. They both respond to the same plug. So it's great. It's good numbers. It's exciting. It would be my second favorite way to catch one. Because if I had my druthers, I'd rather catch one power reeling than anything.
Right. We talked.
That's my number
and
one
we're going
favorite
to
way
talk
to catch
about
striped
that a little
bass.
bit. What is your favorite top water? And you can answer this too. I know you've answered it on here before, but we'll do it again since we've got both of you. What is your favorite top water bait for striper?
Can I assume
You assume.
ahead.
Go ahead and assume.
a red fin?
It's in the top 3.
Okay, I was close.
You're very close.
Can I take a little side?
You can
question?
take it whichever way you want
Are
to go.
you seeing as good a redfin bite these days as you did 10 years ago?
No.
Yeah.
It's not
Okay.
even close.
People keep
Okay.
asking me about it, and I'm like, no, I just don't see the same.
It's not near as
Resources from the
consistent
fish,
for
yeah.
one.
So his answer
I
is
just wanted
based
to
upon.
assume. I
Yeah.
figured
So
you
your
know,
answer is
fin.
based upon the past.
Yeah.
It was big and that, but it's
Well,
not as
Well,
good
I mean,
now.
you could go throw a red fin, in April, and
Yeah.
just slow roll that thing, across the top, put a good old wake out there. And
Oh,
it'll
yeah.
A good
crush
choppy
it.
day.
And big spots with it.
Yeah.
And oh man, that's a really,
Yeah.
really cool technique. It's a great plug. And like I said, it's in the top 3. I still like his air spook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and
It's hard to beat.
It is. And you're asking me questions that really don't have an answer. See, I would break it down like this.
Break it down.
Okay, I'm
Whichever
going to throw
one
that
they hit.
red fin. Okay, so let's say we got a
Teach
top
me.
water range from 60 to 80.
Okay.
All right, on the low end of that, I like the subtleness of the red fin.
Mhm.
Okay, on the upper end of that, I like a bigger, faster plug. So when we get to the upper end of that, I like a big walking bait, but I've also got to throw in there the cast OG, which is new. It doesn't have the history of the red fin or the spook. Certainly, spook's been around longer than I have.
Yeah.
They work, but that OG is a really good striper plug. It's fun to fish. It's very different.
It is different. We've had the guys on. It's
Yeah,
different.
okay. Ryan's explained that to you. It's
Yeah.
a great bait, but if you treat it like you treat a red fin or a walking bait, you're probably gonna be disappointed.
That's
Okay.
exactly right.
You gotta treat it, use it as designed. But it seems to work on either end of the temperature range, and it catches big spots. So if I had to pick one of those, I'd just have to draw a straw. I'd be comfortable with any of the 3, but I do love that red fin.
What about a saltwater chug bug? You
Saltwater
still
chug
catch
bug.
those?
That's mine.
You got to put him in the mix too,
Yeah.
and again, particularly on the high end of that temperature range.
Right.
Man.
You want to keep a bait in the strike zones right there, not moving that much, but making a big loud
Oh, and that one, boy, they know it's there. And
Now, the
Oh, yeah.
time of
excellent bait.
year for me, the big chrome and blue saltwater chug bug in the fall is that's my favorite in the fall.
See, that's opposite
Now
for
in the
me.
spring, I'd probably prefer a walking bait.
When I start finding a topwater bite for spots, or even start finding some stripers, it's always on a chug bug first. I can get them to
The
eat a
little
chug
bug?
bug. Yeah, the little one.
Bug, yeah.
I can get them to eat the chug bug junior a lot better, and it's striper and spots. It's
Yeah.
not. I mean, I'm not playing particulars with it. It's
See-
like you said. I ain't never met anybody who doesn't. Not if you don't enjoy catching fish on top water, you might need to
I've
find
never
a
had
hobby.
anybody complain about getting a bite on a top water.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably
No.
won't.
That's why I say you might need to find another hobby.
I'm
They
not
just
sure
don't,
somebody
you know.
exists
The
that
most
don't like
exhilarating
it.
way to
Yeah.
fish.
It is.
Even if you don't like it, it's just got to be intriguing to watch it happen. Even if you don't, yeah.
Yeah.
But now, I would also break that bass bite into two real distinct topwater bites. I think you got a pre-spawn spawn bite that's totally different than the post-spawn bite. Different plugs, different places for sure.
Yeah.
Where you're getting those fish offshore, and on that low end, that little chug bug, just dead sticking it. Oh, that's killer. I love that, and that's really good. And you'll get some stripers to it too, because they're all up in that shallow water all at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So y'all are just making me wish it was April. Really.
Oh, it's
I
gonna be
wish it
soon.
was April. It's coming. It's coming soon.
I said that today. I said, "Well, I'm ready for some hotter weather now."
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done
So,
well.
uh,
We're ready to move on.
How about popping up Jeremiah right there? He's got a question for you. I have a question. How do you decide bucktails versus swim baits on your umbrella rigs?
That's a good question. For the most part, I think bucktail's just hard to beat. The exceptions to that, and there's always exceptions, but I think if you're on a hybrid lake, a lot of times the hybrids will respond to the shad bodies better. If it's really, really cold, which we hadn't had really, really cold water, but sometimes it's really cold, I think they prefer that swim bait. I'm not sure why that is. Let's say below 49 or 48. When it really gets cold, we've been lucky. Our water temperatures have stayed pretty elevated through this winter.
That's
Thus
about
far.
that's about the coolest that I have found is about on the Garmin is 47, and the Garmin seems to read a little cooler than maybe particularly like Lowrance is what the other ones that I
Right,
run.
but you have said consistently though it's warmer this year than it has been. We're not getting that cold water yet.
Well, not as warm as it was last year, because I mean, last year,
Yeah.
me and Jeff Nail went out and went fishing the day on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve or whatever it was, and we were throwing sabills. we were drawing fish.
We've not had cold winters and the subsequent cold temperatures. I guess I'd have to look back, but really for 3 winters, it's stayed mild.
I can't remember the last time that I've personally seen it drop below like 44.
And we haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, it's
And,
been a while.
used to on the lower end, we'd bottom out at 46, 45.
Right.
Okay.
And historically, it popped back, we mentioned early, 50 degrees. Usually came, if you took a 20-year average, usually comes right around March 1st. That's not been the case. We've come into March already at 50 or above. So it looks like it's going to be the same thing this year. Looking at the weather, it's lousy weather for fishing, but it's not really cold.
It's not
Right.
good weather for night fishing.
It's not good weather for day fishing,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, can you could you pull up Felicia's comment, Miss Jennifer? I know you're watching right now. Could you, if you're still watching, answer that question right there? I know they're having an all ladies tournament. I do not know when the cutoff is or anything like that. So if you could help us out, I sure would appreciate it right there.
I see that, Ryan.
Which one are we looking at?
Ryan, we know what his favorite plug is, but I can't argue with him. He said he's got to throw that the OG. I cannot argue with him.
Oh, is that
on
old Hanks? What's
Yeah.
up, Hanks?
Yeah.
But like you said, and they have said it on the show. There's two types of people: the people that really love the OG, and the people that don't know how to throw it yet correctly. So there is a proper procedure, and you guys can go back and watch the cast crew on the Livewell.
Franco
Franco goes into real good detail about that right
Yeah,
there.
he's
you
probably as dialed in as anybody on that plug.
he is, and again, super great dude.
Now,
Yeah.
see, for me,
He
I
is
actually
absolutely
had
fantastic.
a misconception of what the OG did. I stayed away from it. I was like, I actually went to Oakwood. I picked one up. I put it down on the table, and he rung it up, and I'm like, I'm not paying that for a walking bait. And I put it back. And I didn't know it, but when Paul and I fished the Don Brown Memorial Tournament, I was telling him, I'm like, I think the spook is, and he's like, no. He's like, the OG does so much more than that. I'm like, it's a walking bait. He's like, yes and no.
Right.
I'm like, okay, enlighten me.
Yeah.
And then he pulled up the video and showed me what it done, and I'm like, oh man, I was
Yeah.
like, that does way more than just walk.
I tell you, I can't get it to walk, and I had some luck
Yeah.
doing this, particularly on the low end of the top water temperature range. But if you'll cast it, just take your reel hand and point it at it. Don't move your rod, just crank. and it's a real subtle glide like
Yeah.
this, and crank again and it'll glide, and it walks really pretty, but it won't do like a spook where you.
Yeah.
It's very subtle, and it's harder, but that's a really good action over and above the typical stick bait
Yeah.
sweep type.
Yeah, the action that it made. Well, as soon as I seen the video, I understood why big stripers liked it. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
duh.
And I think a lot of people
And it
go
made
out
me
there
mad 'cause
and
it
they
was
don't know.
at the end of that season for
They
it, and I'm
don't
like, no, I wish I had it on the whole
Yeah.
time.
A lot of
'Cause-
guys are treating it like a spook, or
Yeah.
it's not.
It's a very effective bait, and it catches some mag spots. I can tell you
Big
that.
spot. It's just it catches big spots. It catches big stripers. It's really a good bait. I think it's an expensive bait, but it's also very well made.
Yeah.
It is.
It's got great hardware on it. So when you hook that 25, 30
Yeah,
pounder,
after I watched that video, I did more research.
You know, and
on
it's got the line that goes through the entire
Yes.
bait and everything.
Yeah.
It's a saltwater bait set
you
up
will
right.
probably
for-
lose
yeah.
it before you tear it up.
Absolutely. And I can agree with you on
Do
that.
you have the 30 gram or the 40 gram tied on more than which one do you tie on?
I still like that 40.
You like the bigger one? Okay.
For a couple reasons. For one, I like that big bait. I think it gets attention for big fish. It's really nice for schoolers because you can throw it across the
Mile,
lake.
Yeah, you can spool a reel. if
You can
got
spool
one.
a low pro reel with it.
Yeah.
You can. And our fish have that nasty habit of coming up about 15 feet further than you can cast.
Mm-hmm.
OG will get you that 15 and another 15. You can get it past
Yeah,
them.
you can throw. You can throw it for sure.
And you know, the schooling fish, that's when you can get it past them. That's when you capitalize like 99% of the
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely. I want to get it on the other side of them if I can.
Yeah.
Which on Lanier, they just seem to have a built-in line counter.
The OG
That goes-
herring is God's stick bait. There you go. That's high praise. That's
Well,
high praise.
I've never heard it put that way, but I like that.
Do you have a particular color you like on that? Just, I mean, there's several colors to choose from, but do you
Yeah.
have one that you like?
Yeah, I would probably, overall, I'd probably pick the herring, but that new chrome color's pretty.
I was about to
For
say,
sure.
Uh-huh.
he's probably waiting on the chrome one.
Yeah, I think that's going to have a pretty big impact. The herring is overall, though, it's hard to beat.
All right, here's a good comment from Jim Wright. Hey, Mac, they work good for redfish also. Tell them those bucktails work great for redfish at Fort Morgan, too.
Okay, that sounded like an invite for me to come down there and go fishing
That's
with you
what
at
it
Fort Morgan.
sounds
That's
like
how
to
I
me.
interpreted that. Thank you.
I
we
believe
need
it.
to DM me. We'll talk about that. Absolutely.
I believe it, but they're good for all around species.
I had a lot of fun with it the first time I took it to the Gulf with amberjacks.
Oh, you dog.
Yeah, it was awesome. And you've seen this, how stripers will come up in a pack and swatting at your red fin until somebody messes up and gets it. Jacks will do the same thing. There'll be a little herd of them until somebody, and it was really cool. And that plug, the good thing about it, it's tough enough. If you hook a big jack even, it'll handle it.
Oh, yeah.
So-
That's awesome. Rod Slinger Outdoors had a follow-up question here on the umbrella and the Mini Mac. What size leaders are you using normally?
Leader, if you're talking about leader from the umbrella to my rod, I don't use a leader. I go straight to the umbrella. The leaders on the big umbrellas are 45-pound wire, and of course on the Mini Mac, you've just got a piece of hardware that attaches straight to your grub. But I wouldn't worry about a leader on it. I think it's so reactionary. I think that's an impulse bite. I usually pull my big umbrellas. I pull them on 50-pound tests straight to the rig. The minis I've been pulling on 17 or 20.
50-pound braid or mono?
I'm still on mono on that.
So you
I'm
like
old
the
school.
mono?
On the rig.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
and why is that?
I'm an old dog.
I did not say that.
Okay.
You can't blame me this
I wasn't
time.
going to give you the opportunity
Okay,
because I
that's
knew it
right.
was coming.
You
all
took
right?
care of
Yeah,
it.
that's right. I
That's
was going
right.
to beat you to the punch. I feel like I've got such a good feel for what that thing's doing. I don't want to. It's not broken, so I don't want to fix it.
Tried and
a
true.
good
for
point.
you.
But now, braid is certainly effective.
Mhm.
It's very good. There's a big trend towards braid. There's nothing wrong with that. The advantage of braid, it will allow you extra depth if you need it, at that thinner diameter.
Yep.
The only disadvantage I can see to braid is its unforgivingness to stretch if you get a fish close to the boat and he gives you that last good head shake. Sometimes it may pull one off, but that doesn't happen often enough. So I tell people, choose what you're comfortable with.
I used to that.
He's smiling and laughing.
Well, we
Here
had
we
an
go.
old fishing ski boat, and I used to use 120-pound braid for my umbrella rigs. And I got one snagged, and I tied it off to the cleat, and it ripped the cleat off the boat.
I was going to say, what? Now, how big was it again?
That's like tying a
It
rope
was the
off with a
four-arm
string and timber.
umbrella rig with a 120-pound braid, and it ripped the cleat off. I wrapped it around the cleat trying to rip the umbrella rig out of a tree, and it ripped the cleat off the boat, and I lost the umbrella rig.
I
and the
can
cleat.
definitely see that. That's funny.
And that's one reason people use it because
Yeah.
with the exception of him in that story, most times the cleat will hold and you'll get the umbrella back.
Yeah,
and you'll
without
have
a
to use
leader on it, you know.
You don't have to go back and get the retriever and get it out, which is remarkably effective, but it's remarkably time consuming.
Yeah.
Because you got to clear all your other rigs. You got to go back to it, but you can get it back. With braid, that's what I think started that whole trend. Guys throw it around the cleat, give it the gas, and either you jerk the tree out of the water or something gives, but it will get the rig back.
Yeah.
But pretty effective as well. You might lose a jig, but you get your rig back.
Usually that's what you lose a jig, but I guess I must have got multiple hooks stuck in that
You
jig
got the
because
whole
it took
thing
everything.
down there, yeah.
Oh, look at that. So Timothy Turner, great to see Mack on the show. He's the first guy that I went out with on Lanier back in the 90s. Back in the 90s. So
Yeah.
there you go. That's high praise right there. So I love it.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Good to hear from you, brother.
Absolutely. Got Fishing with Farmer right there. This next question right here. Let's see. Do you see that your bigger than average spots seem to follow the stripers and school? So when you do run into a big spot, you're out striper fishing and you run into a big spot. Is it just coincidence? Is there a reason that spot's there?
No, I think to some degree you can target them, and I think they're very comfortable being with stripers.
Okay.
Not that,
Especially the bigger ones.
yeah, not that they'll go seek out a school of stripers to hang out with, but they're certainly not intimidated, and they're big enough they can compete with them if they're schooling fish or they're chasing food. They'll even certain times a year, I think mostly April, May.
Yeah.
They'll live on the same places. Yeah, if you bass fishermen have found this out the hard way. A striper loves a good brush pile. They love to hang around.
They
good
love
brush
a
Really?
good deep hole too.
Yeah.
Near the deep water.
So, and
Yeah.
when you're talking about
yeah.
water temperatures in the upper 60s and lower 70s, they're all and they're throwing the herring spawn. They're all in the same places.
Mhm.
But the spots are perfectly comfortable around them, and I've seen them too many times. I've caught a big spot out of a school of stripers. So yeah, they're right at home, and I don't know if there's a competitive advantage for a spot to be around if he's picking up scraps or if it's advantage to him. But he'll run with them absolutely.
I got you. That's
I mean,
interesting.
how many 5-pound spots you catch out over 120 feet of water in April?
Yes, he's out there and.
I can't figure
Middle
him
of
out.
nowhere.
He's just out there in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't make.
I mean, he's on the
sense.
bait pot, you know, the
But as
scattered
far as
herring out there,
structure,
but yeah.
couldn't be any more random.
Yeah.
He's just swimming. Bait supersedes structure at that point.
Yep.
He's chasing
Okay.
the bait.
Oh, yeah.
That's excellent.
But that's a great question.
It is, yeah, and we're learning right there. I want to shout out another one of our fine sponsors right now because I saw him pop up here. I saw her name pop up in the comments. That's Rachel Collins with 400homes.com. You guys can contact Rachel at Rachel at 400homes.com or 770-310-0599. If you're in the real estate market looking to buy or sell, Rachel is the agent for you. She's local. She's one of us. She likes to get out on the water and fish. She will bust her butt to get you the best deal you can out there. And while we're at it, she's been on the men. We want to say, Rachel, if you're watching, we're glad you're feeling better and back out into the game. Guys, we highly recommend it. She's her and her husband are great friends with Fish North Georgia. And again, we want to thank them for their support. So if you're in the real estate market, you guys need to hit Rachel up for sure right there. So we got any more questions popped up? Let's read Jim's comment down there again. We can pull them comments right back up. That right there. I had a big striper trying to eat a 12-inch sucker once, but the spot won the competition right after. Okay.
I know where
So-
you was fishing with that 12-inch sucker, too.
Well, you know, it's nobody
west
thinks
of
about
here.
suckers. Actually, I went on a muskie trip a little while ago, and the bait I was using,
It's a big sucker.
well, it was artificial, but it was replicating a big and it was 12 and a half, 14
Wow,
inches,
yeah.
like that for muskie and all that. And I guess stripers are like that too. They're very aggressive, but spots sometimes can outcompete them a little bit,
Man.
as mean as they are.
I think they can corner better. You know, they can zip
Makes
faster
sense.
than a striper can zip.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it may be a little. He's more sport carish.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something
Okay, there you
He's
go.
a little Miata, and the striper's more of the drag car. You know,
Is that what it is? Okay. So Lanier Basson wants to know, and we'll start this one off with you, Mac, right there. For a guide, what's your go-to spotted bass lure spring, summer, and fall? So we're going to have 3 answers right there. So in the
Robo-worm,
spring.
and then the next season will be a robo-worm, and the next season will be a robo-worm.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Well,
I knew that was coming.
Let me qualify that too. It doesn't have to be a robo-worm. I like robos, but there's a lot of good plastics out there. The advantage of that, they'll bite them when they're shallow. They'll bite it when it's deep. They'll bite them when they're cold. They'll bite them when it's hot. It's very universal. Now, is it, as far as in terms of numbers and consistency, I don't think you can beat a plastic one. Whether you fish it on a lead head, drop shot, any form of rigging, but that day in and day out, if you just want to make sure you catch fish and you're not worried about catching giants, Which sometimes you'll catch big ones with plastics, but if you just want to catch a fish, that is day in and day out. I would even say not just linear, a lot of lakes, but yeah, that's the go-to.
Always going with the worm right there. So Justin Speece wants to know, why did the striper on the lower hooch seem more aggressive than the stripers on Lanier?
That's a good question. Terry, you probably spent more time down there than I have.
That again could be the difference. I'm pretty sure all the ones in the lower hooch are Gulfstream.
I think a river
And-
environment too.
Yeah, river environment.
A fish in a river,
Not
I
as much
think,
forage base.
Yeah, he lives different. He thinks a little bit
Yeah.
different, and he's in a different environment. Has to be a little more opportunistic, I think. So when the
'Cause those-
opportunity comes
yeah.
for him to eat, he doesn't get that opportunity maybe as frequently.
Those fish on the lower hooch, those are the ones from West Point, I believe. Right? Correct?
Most probably so. Yes.
I got you. Guys,
So
oh,
you're
yeah.
dealing with the Gulf Stream fish again.
Yeah.
Got that again. Guys, I always want we have a lot of great viewers watching, and there's some of them that always put out some really good comments right there. Anytime Ron Swinford comments, I highly recommend you read it because he's got a lot of experience and stuff like that. So if you see Ron's name pop up, make sure you take time to read it. He always has good stuff. David wants to know, how do striper reproduce? And so we can kind of talk a little bit about the fact that a landlocked striper does not. They try to.
Yeah, they actually go through the motions. But
Mhm.
for that fish to spawn, the egg has to float in moving water for a couple of days, and our river's not big enough.
Yeah,
they
take,
go up the hooch.
Yep.
You know, they go to Nora Mill.
Yeah, all the way
Which,
up.
if you're familiar with the Chattahoochee River, that is an incredible amount of shallow water for a big fish to navigate.
And a lot
Yeah.
of obstacles for them to
Yeah.
get there.
Yes.
And I know the ones from Allatoona will come all the way up the Etowah to Dawson Forest.
So
till they-
something
till they-
stops their forward progress.
till they get
Yeah.
to the shoals right there, a little bit above here,
Yeah,
and they can't go no further, but they will make that run.
it's amazing that they do that. But the problem is once they get up there, even if they have their eggs, the egg does not fertilize and spawn. I think there's only 9 or 10 reservoirs in the
Coosa
country.
River, Lake Powell, Lake Mead, Texoma,
Texoma gets a lot of natural production.
Santee Cooper. I just looked it up the other day. I can't
Yeah.
remember
So-
all of
so
them now, but
now-
I think it's 6.
Some
total.
of the
Yeah.
Texas reservoirs.
But it's the environment that allows it.
It's
So
the river.
it's the
that
river.
feeds
So
the
they've got
river
that
environment.
flowing water, big river stuff like that. Now, is it temperature related or is it just
It's
amount of flow?
It's flow.
It's
It has
all
to be
about
certain
flow.
Okay.
how cubic feet
It-
per
it's
minute
very
or whatever
specific.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's time specific and
It can't be
flow.
too fast, can't be too slow.
It's got to be the Goldilocks thing. It's got to be just right in
Yeah.
the middle. You got a temperature, a flow range, turbidity, all kind of stuff, but it's pretty sensitive. So most stripers, the vast majority of striper stocked in the United States are all hatchery raised fish.
Okay.
That's not gonna
That's the
change.
vast
Yeah, I
majority.
mean,
of
the
it.
hundreds of reservoirs and impoundments that where they're stocked, there's only 6 places landlocked stripers.
And so it
can
just
spawn.
has to be that perfect combination
It's
of
a very,
everything's
very-
got the stars got to
Yes.
align and all
Exactly.
that kind of stuff. Lanier Basson wants to know, or did I miss one? Okay, I hit that note. I'm sorry, I missed that. Read that, Ryan.
How are you fishing that robo worm in each season? Specific techniques.
Good question. You know, I use a lot of shaky heads, a lot of Texas rigs. Now ditch fishing, it's just slow and steady. If I get past 20 feet, I fish it vertically more than I cast for a couple reasons. For one, it's really precise. I can
Shaky head
park
fish.
right on top of them. I'm watching my sonar. It's real specific if I'm on a ledge, not just brush, but any kind of ledge where, if you think about a ledge, you've got a surface, a vertical surface like this. Your strike zone's relatively small. And I told you I used to dive. If you look at a ledge.
I was going to mention that.
Okay, most ledges have rocks or where there's an old tree and there's holes in them, and the fish will back up in there like a grouper does on a ledge offshore.
Really? Okay.
So if you're fishing outside the ledge, your worm's on top of the ledge over here or way on the other side, he probably won't come and get it. So if I'm deep, I really like a vertical presentation where I can watch, I can really pinpoint it on something that's just right under me. In the spring, when fish are spawning, I like lighter lines so I can make a really long cast. In any season, I try and keep it on the bottom, contact with the bottom. Also, if you're deeper, that vertical presentation will give you a much better hook set because you're right on top of him. And we talked about this earlier. If you make a really long cast and your worm's out there on the bottom, you get a bite. And I think it's really, the mechanics of your hook set have to be almost perfect. You also have to factor in, you look at your rod tip and you envision that line going to the worm and the fish where this cup is. Well, there's no reason when he bites it, he's not over here. He's moving. So now you got this big belly in your line.
Yep.
And you've got 1,000,000 feet of line out. And vertically, when you're fishing vertically, you eliminate a lot of that.
Okay.
Not that that's bad. Sometimes they'll bite it better like that. But just remember your hook set's got to be really, the mechanics of your hook set have to, not necessarily a hard hook set,
Right.
Matter of fact, I put a little blurb up on that online not too long ago because I like to, if I get a bite and my worm's a long way away from me, I like to, I drop my rod immediately because now I'm thinking he doesn't know I'm up here. I got time. He's going to hang on to it. And I'll actually square my body up to him depending on where I'm standing in the boat. I might step up closer to the gunnel and I reel down to, not to the point where I'm putting pressure on the fish, but I reel down, I get all the slack out and I pour the cold to him. I got time to do that because he doesn't know I'm up here. Now I've got all the slack out. I'm getting the full advantage of my hook set, and I'll stick most of them. If I get in a hurry and don't do those things, my hook set, my strikes to hookup ratio starts dropping.
I never thought about that. I mean, it makes perfect sense. That big bow on the line and stuff like that.
It might be there anyway. If your boat moves a little bit, it's just deceptive because you see just a little bit of that line. It makes you think that everything's nice and neat and a nice straight line. It's usually not.
No.
It could bow up. If you're fishing really slow, like I talked about, your line may be bowed up this way.
It puts it in perspective when you're fishing maybe a shaky head and the wind, and you're kind of trying to fight the boat and trying to keep you in position if you don't have a spot lock or something, and then you get a bite and you don't realize you get a bite because you have a big bow in your line, and then all of a sudden you kind of reel up to kind of oh man, I gotta get back in contact. And then he's swimming away.
He's over there.
You know, but it's like you had such a bow in the line that he picked it up and he's got it and he swims another 20 feet before all of a sudden he pulls the slack out of your line.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm probably one of those guys that in my mind I'm picturing.
Yeah. Well,
to be honest, if I'm going to be honest.
Logical, when you look at it, that will be the logical scenario, but I'm convinced that let's say you're using fluorocarbon, it tends to sink.
Yeah.
I think it'll put a belly in your line that way if you're fishing slow enough. But the line gets down there.
Never, and I probably should have thought about that, but I've never really paid
I would say
that
with
much attention to
braid,
that.
if you got braid on your spinning reel to a fluorocarbon leader, I would say you get more of that side to
that sway,
side
of a better term.
sway,
to me,
because
that's
that
the worst thing
braid
about
wants
braid.
to float, but then with your head and then the fluorocarbon wanting to kind of drag it down too with however long your leader is, and then like maybe say for example a 1/4 ounce shaky head, it wants to move, and do that.
I got you.
Because I've seen that from me looking in real clear water. I've looked down, I can see down in the water with a good set of polarized sunglasses. You get 10 feet into the water and you start looking, and the line's coming straight up out of the water like this, but then when you look, it's actually going into the water underneath it like that and starting to move.
That just
Good
makes it
point.
a little bit harder.
Good point. Makes a lot of sense. That might be why I'm missing so many. Lanier Basson wants to know, have you ever caught trout out of Lanier? I'm sure back in the day you have.
Oh, I used to catch a bunch of them. It was great. We had a tremendously dynamic trout fishery, both in terms of numbers and really nice fish, up until, this is a long time ago, it was maybe the 80s. And those fish would summer over, and we caught really nice trout. And that was a great fish. It was amazing. You go down there at night in the summer around the dam. Were you here then?
No. I came.
Were you born then?
2000s.
I was born. Listen.
I was born in the
Let's say
70s.
that did not cross my mind. I know I've been teasing
Well,
you a
he's
little bit.
poking back now.
He is poking back. I know. That's what I'm saying. He's poking sideways.
What was the rough estimate? When did the trout finally disappear from Lanier?
They stopped stocking them, I believe, in 85.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been a while.
The original Lake Record striper was caught in 87, so he got fat off the land.
He was
good.
the beneficiary of that.
The beneficiary.
Maybe not in the last couple of years, but in his years where he was
He grew up fast.
when he was able to gain at his most prolific stage in life, he was.
Them omega-3s did him well.
Real quick, while we're talking about
beneficiary.
trout in the lake, your opinion, I know you know about it. That girl a couple of years ago who caught that 9-pound trout, where do you think that fish came from?
For whatever reason, I'm convinced he decided to leave the river.
Really?
I think so.
I wanted to get
Maybe
your
a bigger
opinion on
bait
where you
fish.
thought
Might
that.
one of Mike Madalena's 18-inch trout might have.
He still would have had summer over too many times.
Yeah, that's true. I had a hard time picturing that fish living that many summers.
So you think it came down out of the
Yeah, but that would
Chattahoochee?
also be an exceptionally large fish to come out of the river,
Yeah.
out of the upper hooch. So
Yeah, that's a big one anywhere.
that was a giant. That's a tremendous.
Yeah, I
catch.
just seen that picture again the other day. That wasn't a normally large trout for
gosh.
Just
Oh,
9
the hooch
pounds,
or
something.
lake
Listen,
or wherever.
It's
So-
awesome fish.
But
Yeah,
my gut
awesome
feeling
fish.
is he
Good
did.
coloration too.
Absolutely
Yeah.
pretty.
For some reason, I think. Of course, we argue about this. Cows come home, but I think
Yeah.
he ventured out of the river. My bigger question: what did he leave the river for? Obviously, he's doing really well up there.
Outgrew his.
That's a
outgrew his-
really
maybe
good.
so, yeah.
That's a really good question.
Because he
though.
would have been the apex predator up there, buddy.
Yeah.
And he came down the lake.
I mean, that's a trophy trophy
yeah.
up there.
So-
Absolutely.
So I'm
Out
glad.
of the lake and he still was.
He was he had a trophy everywhere that he went.
So I'm glad you said what you said about that, though, because I wanted to piggyback on this because Farmer kind of asked this question. I've seen over the past couple of years that in certain times, parts of the winter, in the winter, we're not talking the days getting longer, starting to get longer like they're starting to now. That atypical start of. All right, we're going to start talking about spring fishing here in the next couple 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
Why is it that you think some instances, because I've seen it, why will striper leave herring to go into the back of a pocket in like 5 feet of water to feed on spot tails when you see a massive school of spot tails in the very, very back of a pocket? Because I literally just seen this 2 weeks ago on Lanier.
I don't know why he would do that. I think some of it maybe he's just roaming. He's got plenty to eat, so he doesn't have to worry about staying there.
And there were multiple fish, stripers in the back of this pocket.
You think it was
Maybe
just
something different.
opportunity?
I mean,
I was wanting to ask him that question.
What-
why
what
would
did
you
you say?
leave?
I said just opportunity.
Yeah.
Maybe they just,
Opportunity. I think they like that shallow water too.
Yeah.
Maybe just wanted to go back there.
It just, to me, spot tails, they're the ones that they were feeding on were that big.
Yeah.
Why would you leave herring this big or bigger?
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Biologically. You get an easier meal. You don't have to eat as much.
Yeah.
So why did he leave? Who knows? But maybe he's curious.
back in November and December, we were catching
That
most of our
opens.
bigger stripers on
There was a
shiners this
comment.
big.
yeah.
But
It was a
there's
comment.
there's a
so-
6-inch herring 8 feet away from that shiner on another
Can you
hook,
get-
and they're grabbing the
Can
little
you get
shiner
the?
every time.
I've got you guys are having absolutely fantastic questions, and I'm gonna get to all of them. But there was a Fig Newton question that popped up, and the only reason I'm gonna hit it first is because Captain Mack had Fig Newtons with him right there. So, tell us a story about the Fig Newton real quick, and then we're gonna jump back up to farmers.
All right. It started a long, long time ago. Had some guys in the boat, having
yeah,
a tough
me as well.
day,
Yeah.
not catching much, and somebody brought some Fig Newtons, and I said, if you'll eat those, they're just full of good luck, and you'll make the fish start biting. Well, as fate would have it, somebody took a bite of one, we caught one.
Uh huh.
Being as gullible and superstitious as we are as fishermen, we kept eating them, we kept catching fish, and I haven't stopped yet. And it's just a really good excuse to eat a really good cookie. And that's my story.
So
And
now,
I
haven't ate one of those.
you religiously buy the Krogers and stuff out of Fig.
Probably about 6 when I tried to eat.
yeah,
one. I didn't like
never
it.
run
You
out of
haven't
Fig
eaten one in a while,
I
have you?
didn't like it 37 years ago. We'll see.
And you
what
haven't had
happens
one
now.
in 37 years.
It's
Here we
almost like
go.
a glorified
Here we go.
Nutri-Grain bar.
Okay, here we go. What?
Look, it's got real food in it. That's
What's
my
your
other
take
story.
30-something years later on the Fig Newton right now? As you remembered it, or have you grown into it?
And if you don't like it, just send that one down here.
It's like a Pop-Tart.
It
Maybe
is
not,
like a
it's not
Pop-Tart.
sweet and sugary, but
That's
it's
So does it?
good boat food.
So does it get your seal of approval now? 30-something years later.
Yeah, I'd eat them on the boat.
Okay,
It's very
good.
good boat food.
It is good boat
Plus,
food.
you're full of good luck.
Good luck. That's right. So
On the boat, I want something I could just and get back to fishing and
Yeah.
munch on it.
this right here, this is highbrow boat food right here. This is highbrow, high class
I have
boat
your
food.
pinky
I
out.
may,
The
I
Fig
may
Newton.
actually,
And
I
if
may
we-
actually go get me for some of these for
And if
tomorrow.
any of you guys know Nabisco, we're looking for a
fishing?
sponsorship.
Well, I got a tournament Saturday, so I might actually
Oh,
try
I'd
to change
have-
things up.
Go
'cause
try
the
that.
beef jerky hasn't been.
The beef
Have a
jerky,
load up, man.
the beef
Have a load
jerky's
up.
killing you. All right, pull it back up to Farmer's question if you don't mind right there.
Let's go.
Okay. And actually, before you answer this question, I want to shout out another one of our fine sponsors, if you don't mind, Miss Rachel Collins with 400homes.com. No, I did, Rachel. All right.
Do her again.
Now, that sounds really bad. Rachel, I did not think that. I meant to say red bobber. My fault. I had the list. But we are glad you're healing, Rachel, for sure.
Last time I ate one of these.
I know it's a Fig Newton right here.
I'm just
But
changing
guys,
lives.
listen, red bobber gear. Cool story behind this thing.
That's what I was going to ask you. What's the story behind
The story behind
Red?
red bobber. What's his name? I'm terrible with names. You know that.
Kyle.
Kyle. I'm
Their
terrible.
son
Their son.
was born like 60 days early
Yep.
and spent that much time in the NICU.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been through it, and he's getting better, and he's getting stronger. He's real young, but he absolutely just they went to take some pictures, and he absolutely just kind of, for some reason, like little kids do, he just fell in love with a red bobber.
Cool
And
story.
It is. And he went
Yeah.
out and actually, here's the cool thing. That was not a,
Are they?
is it, am I using the right word? Copyright? No, not copyright. Patent.
it wasn't trademarked.
Trademark. The red bobber was not trademarked. You would think that
Right
red
there.
bobber
You
that
want me
we've
here?
all fished with was trademarked. It was not trademarked. So what he did was
That
he
better?
took the got the trademark on the red bobber. He's turned it into
I'm
a
just
clothing
being
line,
an ass.
and it reminds him, of fishing when he was young and
Like,
stuff.
yeah,
And so the red
a
bobber,
nostalgia trip.
it is a nostalgic thing, and so it's a great thing. And of course, everybody that's fished probably at one time or the other. The vast majority of us have used a red bobber like that. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
guys, you can go to
Still use it.
redbobbergear.com and check it out. He's got it from kids all the way up to adults. I've got the sweatshirt on today. It's actually very cool. Got the pocket for the phone and all that. So go to redbobbergear.com, check him out. And we appreciate them for their
All
fine
right, I'm gonna get
sponsorship.
some fig Newtons, more figs. I'll be right back.
Are you going to use the bathroom?
No, I'll get more
Are you
figs.
going to use the bathroom? Mac,
Planer
Mac,
birds are
it's
just a big
okay.
kid's bobber.
Mac, it is okay to say I told you could go to the bathroom. No, I'm just kidding. So we're having a good time right there.
Let me know we're doing this. Let me piggyback off this one thing.
Uh-huh.
Because Mercer Outdoors, I've never seen him comment before.
How you
So
doing,
this
Mercer?
is his first time.
He's got a great channel, actually.
He said the smaller bait might have been dying in the back of the creek, so they're easier prey.
That was my theory.
I digress against that because I was watching them on Panoptics and they were just moving.
Yep.
And it didn't make sense, but it was also in 52-degree water temperature.
I got you.
So I don't want to say, I don't want to assume, but I don't believe that those spot tails were dying because they were just moving so crazy back there. I mean, they would come up busting them over here. They would come up busting them over here, and I don't know. It's just one of those things. But it was, to me, in the spring. When we talk about spring, while we wait on Mac come back.
Man,
It's
I'm
like-
glad he went and get some more.
It's like between
I was thinking,
spots.
I hope he is bringing more
Between spots and striper especially, it seems like April through like the 1st of June, it's like their main go is herring, and they try to find the biggest. Seems like they try to find the biggest schools of herring, not the ones with little ones.
Yeah.
They try to find their, and maybe you've seen some of this stuff in your fishing over the years. 'Cause you've been fishing a lot longer
I
than
saw
I
that
have.
comment.
It seems like they find herring that's like this big.
Yeah.
And as long as that herring stays in the area, them stripers will not leave. They will not leave. They refuse to leave until the herring leaves. But it just seems to be the herring that's that big. And I have pictures of some.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know,
used to see
herring
some
that
herring
are-
in the
that
back
are
of
that
Flat
big.
Creek that were
Yeah, they're huge.
look like small skipjacks.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
Huge.
You
The
guys-
other thing that I wanted to say about the bait, though, is I've noticed over the past 2 years, especially up both of the river arms, and I know you like to go up the hooch and stuff and fish
I like
too.
Chestatee better.
Oh, you like to go up Chestatee? Yeah,
Oh, you said
that's
it
my
out
home.
loud.
My home.
There are those who like the hooch side and those who like the Chestatee side. I'm a
The
Chestatee man.
gizzards are
Yep.
getting more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
So now you're starting to have
I'm seeing
this
big
like,
schools of gizzard shad.
yeah, you have. So now you're starting to get, in my opinion, you're starting to get this perfect tsunami going on of threadfin, spot tails, brim, gizzards, herring. It's like going to the Chinese hibachi buffet and it's like picking what kind of pork you want to
Yeah.
eat. You know, it's like they have a daily, day-to-day thing. It seems like they can kind of basically right now on Lanier pick and choose almost what they want to eat. From
You know, it's
day to
funny.
day.
In years past, like you wouldn't. Lots of guys are still pulling gizzard shad right now this time of year. Where 10 years ago, 12 years ago, very few people would even bother trying to pull a gizzard shad all the way through January. Into,
Trout.
yeah, a trout would have been your big bait choice in January. I mean, back then, trout was like the main bait for January. Like that was the one. A lot of guys would just buy trout and just take trout, and that would be it.
Yeah, I loved Eric's comment about 4 grown men eating fig Newtons. That is not exactly what I expected
They're
today.
good. I'm waiting for
I'm
Farmer.
seriously. So
good.
here's what I want to know: is how many guys are going to go out fishing this weekend that we don't know about? They're going to have fig Newtons on
Yeah,
the
you
boat now.
started a trend. Everyone's like, Mac, everyone's like, I'm taking Fig Newtons fishing this week.
Fig Newtons and
Well,
all
you know
that.
what he said? He said the magic word. They're good luck food.
The good
So,
luck food.
yeah.
There you go.
They are
And as being the superstitious lot that we are,
they're chock full of good luck. I'm telling you.
I eat anything and everything. So yeah,
Anti-banana.
that's what I'm gonna
Yes,
try.
exactly.
The anti-banana. Let's pull it back up the farmer's question because he did actually have a legitimate question. It was a good question. So, do y'all like to fish for stripers in stained or clean water? I asked because I've seen a ton of bait up in the stained water from 5 to 20 foot, and in clean water all the way down to 100.
I like that stained water myself.
Okay.
particularly if I'm casting using artificials, I think it's a big plus. I think they'll get shallower. I think they're less weary and they're easier to fool. And particularly in late February and March, you'll have a lot of fish. And again, when I'm talking about stained water, I'm talking about water that's not just coming in the lake. I don't like that brand new muddy water.
Which had to been around for a good
when it's
week or two.
moderated. But once it's got that nice color to it,
Yeah.
I think he's easier to catch.
Okay.
Yeah, especially at night too. I noticed a lot of my bigger fish that I've caught in January, February are on floodlights and stained creek arms.
Okay.
Like Mac said, they're just easier to fool. The big fish make stupid mistakes when the water's dingy.
Let me
It's a
ask you
little
this
bit
about a
easier to get up on
striper. Is a striper more of a sight feeder?
Yes and no.
Just
They got a
curious.
pretty big lateral line on them.
I think
just curious.
sight. I think sight a lot of times is probably the last sense that comes into play.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I think how many I catch when I'm out there power reeling in super deep water. I think he knows the bait's there, but he sees it last. I think an umbrella is a great example. It's humming through the water. It's displacing a lot of water.
Yeah.
I think he's picking up on that through
Oh,
his
yeah,
lateral
for
line.
sure.
He sees it last, right before he eats it, probably. But they know it's there. I think that's one reason it works. They can sense all that movement, that displacement in the water.
Yeah.
So, but don't let stained water intimidate you,
Okay.
because
They find food just
They
fine.
find food.
yeah,
just
and yeah, don't leave it if it's got bait and all the prerequisites. Remember, it gets warmer, or sometimes it can be a little warmer. So again, at this time of year when we're coming into February, March, a little bit warmer. It's got shad in, like you're talking about. You're seeing shad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule that out at all.
I wonder if your kind of maybe your rule of thumb is similar to my rule of thumb in terms of same water. We get that rain comes in and it muddies everything up, and then we don't have rain for a couple days. My rule of thumb for me is it takes somewhere around 2 days for them to really kind of adjust to the way to actually like be really aggressive to feed in a lot stainer, muddier type water than compared
I
to.
think 48 hours is the number.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
48
Yep.
hours.
And you got to remember too, new dirty water is not just dirty. There's things we can't monitor, maybe pH shears that can affect the fish that we don't see, and certainly affect the bait fish. All that
Mercer
turbidity.
Outdoors said to say hello.
Yeah, actually, Mercer had a good question there. If we sit there, right there, Mercer Outdoors. Now, Mercer, this is David Mercer, who is he does really, really well. Yep.
He's on Murray, right?
No, he's on. Well, he fishes. He's in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Fishes a lot of the lakes up there. He travels a good bit. But he does really well slow trolling that mini. Next
Okay.
week he's fishing.
So he's from where?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Hey, how you doing?
I guess he's-
go North Carolina house.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, he's got some great information. Really good fisherman, student of the game.
Oh.
He's getting a lot of good data on slow trolling that
Yeah.
mini. He's
Yeah.
compiled a lot of good
That's
data.
the video that I seen of him pulling the mini Mac with
Yeah.
with the board.
Very
Good
cool.
fisherman. So thanks for tuning in there, buddy.
Let's answer that question right there. Coach Pete.
Coach Pete,
He's
yep.
been very patient with his question. I travel down from Lake Erie usually the end of February, so that's coming up soon. At times we do very well with flat lines, but some days not so good. What would be your suggestion if the flat line bite is dead up in the creeks?
Add more split shots. I'm serious. There's times when like lately, downlines have been producing 10-1 against flat lines one day, and then the next day. But you can turn any flat line into a downline with more split shots and just
Yeah.
So you're saying just get it deeper.
Yeah, and a split shot. One split shot has a big impact on herring.
yeah.
He'll fight it for a little while, but
Yeah.
number 5, number 7 split, and that's really, man. Most times when guys are pulling free lines on Lanier, a lot of times they've got them what I call a weighted free line.
Yeah.
Doesn't fish like a down line. It's more subtle than a down line.
Right.
It hits those mid depth ranges where a fish maybe is he's too shallow to get up under your boat to bite a down line.
Yeah.
But he's not going to get right up on top to eat a true flat line. That weighted flat line can bridge a guy, and it's a big. I have to play with this. You probably do. As well, sometimes one split shot 60 feet out, or then maybe it's 2 split shots 80 feet. You got to play around with that
Yeah.
because you're playing with your depth a lot, and speed influences that a great
Yeah.
deal. But yeah, try weighting them down, particularly if you're in a deal where those fish are not deep enough to target really with the down line.
And like you said with the herring, shiners are super resilient.
Oh,
you
they're
could,
bulletproof.
you could pull a shiner around all day on a hook with 20 split shots. He's going to be just alive.
gonna be just fine like that.
Yeah, you fish with him until either
Yeah.
he gets eaten or you go home.
Yeah, exactly. And bring him out with you next week when you get back out
That's
there.
right. Danny Hogshead has an interesting question. Lanier actually has a record for a hybrid bass. Where did it come from?
Oh, that's a great question. It's my understanding sometimes when they raise stripers and hatchery or stripers and hybrids at the hatchery, you might have one pond that was used 1 week for stripers, and then they pull them out and they put little hybrids in there, or there might be enough water left in the tank somewhere. You remember, you're dealing with fish that are millimeters.
Yeah.
So he gets transported accidentally in a truck. I've actually caught a couple for sure verified hybrids, but that's 2 in 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, Cunningham's caught him.
Yes.
Clay Cunningham.
So they're not stocked, but they are in there, and you
And they
just think it's kind of
occasionally
a,
do pop up.
it's
Yeah,
just
you'll
kind
get
of like
one.
an accidental.
Yeah, it's a bycatch where it was a transportation thing where one slipped through a crack literally. And
Okay.
they survived.
Well, there you go.
Gary Burnett asked Max, slow trolling mini works well during the winter, but how effective during the summer?
That's a great question. I got to tell you, Gary, if you guys follow him online, he is a trolling guru. This guy catches a lot of fish with minis, and he's really got some things tweaked. And that's a good question because we've talked a lot about slow trolling or stealth trolling.
Mm-hmm.
And it does have application in the summer, but it's not used as widely. And I think it's because in the summer, speed is probably an asset.
Mm-hmm.
The fish are, the water's hot and they're
Yeah,
jacked up
they're
and they'll
hopped up,
respond
big
to something going fast. But the advantage of stealth trolling, if you're trolling big umbrellas or leg core, you've got to have a football field to turn around in. If you're stealth trolling, you can fish a little bitty area, you can turn around and go back over something. So it does have application. And when you're fishing that slow, it's really, really, really easy to precisely control the depth of your rig, which is an advantage if you're fishing over timber. You can put them right on those treetops. So, yeah, it's got application. We don't do it. I'm as guilty as anybody. I don't do this as much as I should.
And I think from watching his channel and some other people, I think with the Stealth Mini Mac is you can put multiple, the biggest problem with fishing in the summertime is bait life.
Yes.
Your herring are every 15 minutes. You have to
Particularly late in the summer.
Yeah.
Early fall.
With the Mini Max, I think you can keep multiple Mini Max out there, down there longer, and cover more area without having to worry, is my bait dead? Is my bait dead? Yeah.
Makes
Bait 15
sense.
minutes. When's
Yeah.
the last time I changed that one?
You're always fishing.
Yeah, your
Right.
bait's always down there. You're always moving.
Very
and
good
you've got
point.
something in front of their face the whole time. But when you do come across that big pack of stripers,
Right.
because you'll nothing, then there's 80 fish under your boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
if you
summer
have
fishing.
suspect bait down there, those 80 fish are looking at your bait like, nope, not gonna
I understand that.
happen
That
today, buddy.
makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
because they're incredibly. A herring, as good a bait as he is,
Yep.
he's only good if he's in really good condition.
Yeah.
Compromised herring is not a good bait.
Okay.
I'm amazed they can even tell the difference sometimes.
Oh
But
yeah,
they
they
can.
sure can.
They can.
They absolutely can.
And like Terry said, you get in that deal in the summer. Sometimes you have to change your bait out every 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
because of the water temp
Yeah,
and all that.
yeah, they just can't handle the
Yep.
temperature. It's very stressed. They get stressed out easy anyway.
That's quite an expense, though, having to change your bait every
and
so
the
often like
Mini-Max,
that.
it's, people look at the cost. All right, a Mini Mac is X amount of dollars. Oh, that's expensive. But so is 8 dozen herring in a 50
That's what I was getting ready to say. If they're dying like that.
The tank maintenance throughout the day is extreme too, with ice and salt and this and that and current. Too much current, you're blowing the scales off them. Too little, too much oxygen, they get red nose. Mini Mac, it's a one-time purchase. As long as you're not hanging them up in trees and got a good lake man.
That would be me. That would be me. Which one?
Here's another great question
Yep.
for you both. I think both of you guys should answer this one, Mac and Terry. Do you think the milder winters the last few years and little to no threadfin kill has changed the striper bite, making the mini bite and medium shiner bite better the last year or so?
I do.
I do. And I think they're a lot less prone to go back in the creeks. It's changed that bite, and it's changed the dynamics of everything. We were talking about it before we came on air. So, yes, to answer your question in a nutshell, yes, I think so. Not necessarily that it's bad.
No, I actually like it.
It's
Because
just-
shiners are cheaper, they're hardier. I can fill up a tank with tons of them and
Right.
fight them readily.
I got you. Hey, listen, it makes sense. You guys are throwing out great questions. Number
Excellent
one,
question.
great questions tonight. The people watching that, you were fantastic. I do think everybody's going to be eating fig Newtons coming up this weekend. I might get some for the store.
Hey, guys, you don't have to wait till the weekend. You can eat them all day.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to call him Fig from now on. It's not Captain
Big
Max,
Fig.
Fig Newton. What's the next question we got up there? They'll be sold out before every tournament, like milk, eggs, bread. That's funny. It'd be like a snowstorm.
Go up a little bit. I thought.
Man goes in to buy some Fig Newtons and goes, all right, must be a tournament on Lanier or something like that.
Big tournament got 'em.
What you looking for right there?
I thought I saw another one. So
Yeah, I haven't said. Yeah, throwing the juice tonight. Thanks for the intel, Captain Mack. Great show, everyone. Hey, it's very easy to do these shows when you get quality guests on here that know a lot, and so definitely got that tonight.
there's one.
We will be. Yes, we will be. Not currently, but we will be. Let's go. Let's see.
They're sold
What do
out
you
online
what do you
for a
like about that? You throw that Prodigy a lot?
I do.
I
I like the Prodigy. And I've been
Now-
really, I know you've done really well with it on lights.
Yeah.
I'm fishing it a lot in the ditches and just in general. I mean, I've not found it's got a lot of applications. It's a good tough bait. It does really well in the cooler weather. I'm impressed with its toughness as far as, catch a lot of fish with it. When I first saw it, I thought, man, they're going to grab the tail off this and wear it out every time.
It's
They
tough.
don't. It's
No.
tough
Compared to a
nail.
Kitech, it is tough.
But yeah,
That thing's a Sherman tank compared to the Kitech.
To be honest,
very, very, very solid bait. Yeah.
do you ever use those on the back of your bucktail, or what do you like on the back of your bucktail? I know you
I have
talk.
used the Prodigy. It does well, particularly in colder water, and I want to slow it down. Just a simple swimming grub, 3-inch grub is great.
And this is when we're going into what you call power reeling.
No,
right?
power reeling's in the summer.
Okay.
When we're out there fishing super deep with a really,
That's right, that's
either a
right.
really big spoon
Mhm.
or maybe I'll use a lot of big bucktails. I also power reel herring. And that's kind of unutilized. I put them on a drop shot rig. What would be a giant drop shot with a 2-ounce lead.
Yeah.
And just put a herring on a hook. That's pretty effective. So, that's a July, August, September thing. But now's when you'll cast in bucktails. And another technique that nobody uses, that's a variation of dead sticking, real popular in Texoma. That's a big deal where they just throw something out and you don't do anything. You just throw it out. They throw a fluke out there and just let it sit. Remarkably effective. You can do the same with a bucktail. Just cast it. And it's hard for most people to do because they can't resist the temptation to tweak it, jerk it, and just throw it out there. And the best thing you can do is put it in a rod holder. Just let it sink back up under the boat. You'll be amazed how many bites you get doing that. Don't touch it. Don't just let
So
it.
you're not letting it go all the way to the bottom.
No, and timber dictates on Lanier.
So you're suspending the bucktail under the boat when you do that.
Yeah, you're just throwing it out and letting it sink on a tight line and just put it in the rod holder. If you're moving the boat any at all, you'd be amazed how many bites you get in that, even if you're not moving. One reason bucktail's always been popular,
Mhm.
going back, it's very buoyant and it breathes, so to speak. Like
Yeah.
if you went out on the lake tomorrow and you just take a bucktail and lay it in the water and hold your rod still and watch it, you'll be amazed at the movement. Very subtle, but that's what your shad are doing right now. You won't see a lot of shad
there's
zipping
not a lot of
around.
motion.
No,
Yeah,
they're
we talked about that.
Good
when I was
point,
here
yeah.
sometime. They don't. A gizzard shad, the threadfin shad, he's not a very acrobatic minnow at all.
no, absolutely not.
I got you.
And the dead sticking thing, if you, shameless plug of my YouTube channel, but if you go back and look at a lot of my YouTube videos from last February, up at some other North Georgia lakes and Lake Lanier, I'm fishing with a fluke, with a jig head, reeling as slow as I can. I'm not imparting any action to that lure whatsoever, and I'm just.
And it's hard to do.
Yeah.
People always,
Right. No, I can see it being tough.
Well, we've got so many cool baits that
Yeah.
need to be twitched and jerked and pulled, and
sometimes they don't want it moving.
Do you think we overthink it sometimes? With all
we
that.
do, and if you ever go out there when it's cold and just watch a threadfin in the water,
I'm glad you said that. I always tell people that, and I'm like, no, they don't. They wiggle and then they just glide.
Yeah,
and then,
it's
and then they glide.
it's incredibly
Okay.
Yeah.
subtle.
Yeah, they
All
don't.
No. I
had
didn't
the advantage of
interrupt
living,
you.
on Flat Creek and seeing them under my dock lights every night.
And you
And
could
I would go
watch
down
'em.
there and just watch the bait fish and sit there and just watch them move. And the thread fins, which is what they eat, mostly,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say in January, February, at least until the end of February, thread fins probably make up
It's mostly a threadfin.
most of their diet.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I
And
did
the
not know
thread
that.
fins, they just don't move very fast or very far. They'll sit still for a minute,
It's incredibly subtle, and it's also easier. I think it's easy prey. And somebody made a comment. We were talking about the spot tail question you mentioned. Made that comment that maybe the spot tails are easier for him to catch because a herring, if it's warm, he's pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
You might have to work. So maybe that fish is trading off. It's maybe he's expending less energy for energy.
Yeah.
Okay.
intake.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
makes
when you
perfect
walk up-
sense to me.
When you look at your dock light, in the middle of the night, in the middle of January, you could tell which ones are the herrings and the threadfins. The herrings, even though it's cold, they still have a little bit of spunk to them.
Yeah.
But the threadfins
Okay.
and whatnot, they're just lethargic.
Particularly if somebody's after him, he can turn on the afterburners a little bit.
Yeah, he
maybe
can get
not
away
like he
from
can in the
something.
summer.
The threadfin's not getting away from.
He has no
nobody.
afterburner
No.
at all. He doesn't. He
The
can't-
stripers don't even attack them; they just kind of swim up
Yeah,
and just
if you ever see it in shallow water, they just swim up.
suck them
It's
in.
effortless. He opens his mouth and just goes on about.
Yeah,
And the
he's
striper,
not popping on it like
yeah,
they do. And
yeah, he's
Okay.
not in a
Yeah.
hurry. He's just kind of cruising, mouth open, gets all he wants. It's
So
very
he,
easy.
he knows what he's doing right there. Jeremiah wants to know, do you ever catch any white bass looking for striper on Lanier?
Yeah, oh yeah,
They've been stocking them. So.
yeah. We've been stocking them every year. Our white bass fishery is not near what it was prior to about 06, 07, which Lanier was really a good white bass
Yeah.
fishery. It was solid. And herring calls that. That's probably the biggest downside of the introduction of bluebacks to Lanier. It basically wiped out our
They're
white bass
predators.
fishing. Yeah.
And so,
They-
like, the bluebacks would wipe them out when the white bass would
When
spawn and
those
stuff?
little-
Eye and the egg.
Yeah, the little larval stage white bass, they
Mhm.
just eat them up, and it was easy for the adult bluebacks. DNR started stocking them, not so much with the intention of restocking the lake, but trying to get enough fish in there to establish a breeding population.
Mm-hmm.
And it's working to some degree.
Yeah.
We do have a white bass population.
Way up Chesapeake's really good.
Yeah,
Yellow Creek in
That's where
particular
I've seen
has
the
got
most
a
of them,
lot
is
of
up
white
that.
bass up
Yeah,
there
they've
in Yellow
always
Creek.
gravitated to
Yeah.
that for whatever reason. But it's good, but it's not like
Not what it was.
But we'd like to maybe get a little bit stronger. But and the white bass are really nice size fish.
I
Those
can
have been
remember a
caught.
couple
Yeah.
of the old timer guys that I've been growing up with fishing against and stuff. They talked about back in the '90s and stuff where they would come out. They wouldn't even worry about bass fishing. They would just go out to some of these deep road beds and stuff like that, and they would just drop spoons and they would catch white bass after white bass
Oh, it was
after white
unbelievable.
bass
Yeah.
after white bass, and
and
they were
the-
like, we would literally just drive to a spot, put a propane heater in the middle when it's cold, and we would literally just we'd catch 60, 70 of them and
I
then
knew
go back to the
about the
house.
white bass fishery on Lanier when I was a little kid in New Jersey because I think it was, I want to say it was Orlando or Roland did a show up the river on a. It was one of the big five TV personalities.
Yeah.
Did a show up on the upper end of Lanier up the hooch catching white bass.
Okay, it should
And
see if we
when
can
I was a
find
little
it.
kid, we don't have white bass in New Jersey.
Right,
So I didn't
yeah.
know what a white bass was.
Right.
I'm like, white bass? That's
Yeah.
interesting. Our bass are green.
It was super prolific.
Yeah.
And what you were mentioning, Ryan, that was one of my best guide trips in the fall.
Yeah.
Was the white bass run?
Yes, and because they would tend to mix in with stripers. A lot of times they're pretty close together. So I would catch a ton of white bass, a couple stripers, and a few spots mixed in. It was great for a group of people because everybody's in the hunt, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that was a really good trip. So I missed the white bass. I
You
like
catch a bunch.
Yes,
I
would
the
like
to
numbers
have
are great.
seen it.
Okay, that's
Fantastic.
interesting.
Hey, Matthew had a question there. Matthew Peace, what do you want to know about there?
Let's see.
Have you dialed in the slow pitch jig for striper yet?
No,
Okay, so
move
let's
on. No, just kidding.
I was gonna say, let's explain the slow pitch jig.
No, I'll tell you, Matthew, that's a great question because I really am a big believer in slow pitch, but I have not been able to make it consistently work here.
Now, what is the slow pitch?
The slow pitch is it's kind of like the OG plug. It's a spoon, but it's not the spoon as much as it is. It's an entirely different technique.
Okay.
It was developed for saltwater fisheries where fishing pressure was really heavy. And it's very light tackle with special rods. The rods have a totally different action. I think it's got merit here. Last summer, our August bite was so non-typical, and quite frankly, it was really poor. I think anytime you can catch a fish power reeling, I think slow pitch will have application. Anytime you get, even now, if you get suspended, that seems to be the key to me, Matthew. If the fish is suspended, where you can pull the spoon up through him and actually get that slow pitch action, that motion that you get with that setup will work. I think it's got potential, but I've not been able to maximize it yet. I'm going to keep trying because I
Okay.
do believe in it a great deal. And I've caught some fish. I've caught spots and I've caught stripers. When we first started trying to develop it, too, the year before that, was right in the middle of the pandemic, and the supply chain wouldn't allow us to get the necessary tackle to make it work. And I tried it with conventional tackle, and it failed, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've got product, hopefully this summer, particularly, we can work on it. And
Dial it in.
yeah, and I know Bent Rods, Brandon, he's a big slow pitch guy, and he's had a little bit of success on it in Lanier, and he's doing the same thing. So hopefully, if we have this conversation down the road, I can give you a better report.
Okay.
Remember Ryan's rod when he brought his? He's got a rod big round rod, but big round reel, a lot of line on it, line counter on it, and the rod itself was kind of short, but it was real limber.
When you hook a fish, the rod will bend from the tip right up to your hand.
Yeah.
And I was amazed the first time I tried it in saltwater. Cause as a grouper fisherman, I'm always, tackled up. Me and him, I'm gonna pull you out of the rocks. You don't have much time, so I took that down. A little bitty rod had 30-pound braid, 25-pound leader. I would have never thought I could have caught a grouper like that. And I caught several really nice grouper. And if the rod's so different, the action, so you don't really pull on them. You don't tug him out of the rocks. You just keep pressure on it, and it works. The action of it, that rod, what you do when you reel down on a slow pitch jig, the rod's so limber, when you put a good bend in it, and when you stop reeling, it recoils and it pitches that jig up. And just when you guys get a chance, Google it online, slow pitch fishing.
I definitely will.
Okay.
It's a pretty cool thing. I think we can make it crossover. We got some work to do.
Got some work to do. Okay. Henry wants to know, have you ever tried putting steel shad lures on the umbrella rigs? And again, your questions are amazing tonight.
No, this is some great questions, really good questions. Henry, I've not tried that. It seemed like to me, particularly that big old steel shad might be a good thing put in the middle of the umbrella for the reasons we were talking about earlier. You talk about a bait that displaces some water. Oh, my goodness. That thing, the big ones will shake your teeth out. They really move and really displace a lot of water. So, yeah, that may be something that we need to look at.
Something to
Good
try.
point. Yeah.
Let's see. What we got now? Where's the next question? Okay, there you go. Are y'all throwing a plastic on the back of a bucktail or just straight hair?
They'll eat it, particularly when it's cold. Sometimes just a naked bucktail does fine. Again, we're trying to take the motion out of it. We're trying to downsize it to match the hatch. So an 1/8 or a 3/16 or a 1/4 ounce bucktail does that nicely. The trailer adds to the bulk and profile, which may have a negative effect. Generally, I start out with the trailer. If I'm casting, I like the trailer. If I was dead sticking, I would probably be more prone to get rid of the trailer.
See, for me,
Okay.
I'm kind of. It's funny. He's actually a sponsor of mine, and I don't really throw bucktails
I
on Lake
know.
Lanier.
We got to talk. We need to talk about that, buddy.
But in Tennessee, I throw nothing but bucktails when I'm below the dams and on the lakes in Tennessee. I throw bucktails with fluke trailers. Sometimes a paddle tail trailer, sometimes a regular swim fluke trailer. But on Lake Lanier, I'm just a naked fluke guy, naked fluke and jig head.
Do you think, overall, just fishing in general, do you think a trailer's better? Yes or no? Or could you capsulize it like that and say yes or no?
Yes, I do think it's better.
I think,
But I vary the sizes of my trailers.
I think as long as it's not super cold, a
Yeah.
trailer's better.
A trailer's better.
But sometimes I'll take like the swimming super flukes. I'll just cut the back end off, just to keep the little paddle tail, and I'll just put a little paddle tail on the end of the bucktail,
Just
to give it
something.
a little bit of wobble out the back end of the skirt. you
Well,
know?
and trailers are good too. They can slow your bait down if you needed to. They can slow the sink rate down a good bit.
Right.
And that can be a big plus when it's cold. If you really just want, we're going back to matching that shad hatch. Subtle is good sometimes.
Right, I got you.
A slow sink.
Elliot Outdoors, you definitely can send me some of them hand-tied jigs. I'll try them like that. He wanted to know if he could send you some hand-tied jigs, let you try them and all that. But he also had a question.
You can send them my way too.
Yeah, you can send them up. But he also had a question, like I think a couple of we asked about the reel. What's the best reel, striper reel for under $250? Right there, Elliot Outdoors.
That's a very varied question, depending on.
Okay, what's the best reel?
For under $250 for striper.
If you're live bait fishing, I'm going to say there's a lot of good reels out there. For the money, performance, price point, an Okuma 203 line counter is really hard to beat. It's not a very good casting reel. If you're casting, then I would look at some type of low profile reel, and gosh, there's so many of those. But at that point, you're looking at a bass reel.
Okay.
And there's a lot of losers. There's all kind of great bass reels.
300 state.
I got you. So
There you
that definitely
Yes.
makes sense. How many walleyes do you catch? Do you average catching over the years, or how many?
That's a good way to state it. You measure it in fish per years, because you can't count them fish per days. There's not enough of them.
There was, before I took my hiatus from fishing Lanier there for a couple of years, I was actually targeting walleyes in February and March up the rivers.
Up the rivers.
That's
Yeah.
the key right
That's
there.
it.
And
yes.
last year I wanted to do it for whatever reason. I don't know if they moved up later last year, but I went up the Chestatee to where I found them historically back in the 2010s, and I couldn't find them this year.
Yeah, there's
last
two
year.
things that happen to you there. The density's gone down a little bit.
Yeah.
Which we've never had a lot of walleyes anyway.
But I could go on a good night. I could go up there and get 6.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
and I think what you said is the key. I think the only time the density is great enough to target one is when they're up in the river spawning.
Mhm.
The rest of the year they're too scattered out, and they don't respond to any of the techniques we use.
Yeah.
You'd have to target them, but I think nobody's developed that fishery other than the river thing, because why?
Right.
Nobody wants to put the time and effort in to go and catching 4 walleyes when they can go catch 24 spots or
Mhm.
8 stripers. And so I don't. And right now DNR I don't think has any plans to stock. We only get like a couple fish per acre stocked.
Yeah, it's
And,
not a lot.
and that's
I think
largely
the last time I stocked them was 200,000 total, and that was for the entire lake. And they
And-
stocked them a couple different times throughout the year. That's not that many fish.
we don't have many walleyes,
Yeah.
and they keep them there because they catch the brood fish for the state out of the hooch, and it's geographically convenient to their office in Gainesville. So it's largely for the brood fish.
Yeah.
I've caught
biggest
two.
one-
I've caught two. One was on a shaky head, dragging it deep and on the road bed. The other one, believe it or not, was at night on a black spinnerbait.
Yeah, they'll get
The
it moved. They
biggest-
like that night stuff.
Yeah,
The biggest one I caught, the first one I ever caught, was actually bigger than the lake record when I caught it.
yeah.
I caught it was on the scale was like 8, 10, 8. It was like between 8 pound 8 and 8 pound 12 ounces. The lake record at the time was 8 pound 8 ounces. Well, I seen it. I was fishing out at Van's Tavern. I was fishing a point, and I seen a stripe, a mark on my side imaging way out, 80 feet to my right over about 80 foot of water in the middle of nowhere. Never worse. I turned, I casted a mixed stick out there, 2 cranks of reel, hooked it. And I'm fighting it, and it's fighting good, and it's pulling drag, it's fighting good, and I got to look at it, and I thought it was a giant spot. I seen the brown and how long it was. I'm like, oh my God, I got like an 8 pound spot, I'm freaking out about it. I get in the net, turn on my light, I'm like, oh my God, it's a walleye. And
toothy
I'm on
critter.
the phone, I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is like lake record quality, and I look it up. And then I look at the date when the old lake record was caught. It was caught in 1978, and I'm like, do I really want to beat a 30-plus-year-old record by an ounce or two?
Yeah.
And I was like, plus it was 2 in the morning. I'm like, is this fish going to be a lake record?
Probably wouldn't
by
have been a
7
lake
in the
record.
morning? No, I put it in my live well, and the next morning I got up and I weighed it. It was coming up at like 8 pound 4 ounce, 8 pounds 6.
Little
somewhere in
short
there.
of it like
But that fish was just out in the middle of nowhere, suspended over
Yeah.
open
That's an
water.
anomaly for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I did a podcast with O'Neill Williams, and in that podcast, he says the best time for walleye on Lanier is the full moon in February, because when they run up the river,
That's
that
probably
generally triggers their
Yes.
run up the
and they
the-
will
the
run.
river.
They go before the stripers and the white bass. They go early.
The
They
first
go
time
early,
I
okay.
found them up the river was actually by mistake, because we had actually had a couple weeks of warm weather, and I was like, there might be some stripers heading up the river early. So I went up there to fish with them artificial, and I got up there. I put in a Toto, and I go up the river, and there's boats up there. What are these guys doing? There's guys, and I see these little lights, and I'm like, these little glow sticks. I'm like, the guys are pulling planer boards. Striper fishing, pulling planer boards. They were walleye fishing. I had no idea.
Okay.
Those guys that are up there, I know I probably kind of blew it up a little bit,
little
but they
bit.
are.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're quiet.
Yeah,
We don't
you're
hear a
not
lot
gonna-
of chatter about it.
No, because the few people that are targeting them and catching them are going to keep it under wraps. And I still don't think they're catching great numbers.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody has a big day now and then gets 12, 15, but for the most part, you're fishing for 3 to 5 fish up there, and it's a 4 to 6 week window where the density's enough. I think you could actually target them.
Right.
Yeah, and I've not caught them in enough numbers to like get specifically technical with it.
That-
I'm up there throwing a fluke and a jerkbait and getting lucky and plucking off
One,
one here,
and the
one
ones
there.
I've caught out of the lake, you ask them how many I caught, and I haven't caught near as many the last 3 years. I'd usually get a couple in the fall, jigging a spoon really deep, and then I would I'd catch one now and then power reeling, which really surprised me. I
Yeah.
wanted to eat that Parker spoon. Usually I don't eat big stuff, or you get one trolling now and then. And then there was the just really crazy anomaly where you'd hook one like a black spinner bait or on a shaky or something totally out of character, but it's all bycatch. And like Terry said, I don't think any of us have caught enough to be able to put together any semblance of a pattern.
Right. Yeah.
No, because the one I caught on a black spinnerbait was on a reef pole in about probably 10 feet of water at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
The one that I caught it was in like May.
I had
And then the other one that I caught was just, we were fishing a road bed. We found these fish on this road bed spots, and we caught a spot. Okay, drop back down there and dragging it down there. And it just takes off. And you set the hook and you're like, this ain't a spot.
Right,
It's like,
right.
it's a catfish. And then you start realizing it wasn't a catfish.
It's a
And
boot.
it come up, and I was like, oh my God, it's one of them old toothy critters that's swimming around.
One of them
You know
old
what?
toothy critters.
Mostly the ones that I've caught, except for that big one that I caught. That one fought really well.
Yeah.
And I was like, these things got a bad rap. These things fight great.
Yeah.
Everyone that I caught after that, I thought I was snagged on a stick or a leaf or something like that. And
Oh,
bring it
they're
in. They just come in
lazy
sideways.
fish.
Just hooked.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, they're lazy.
if I could imitate them, they fight like this.
Yeah.
If you go down, if you're ever on the lake in February, though, go to the dam and take you a spotlight,
Yeah.
and you'll see
You
them
can see all the
spawning down
eyes
there.
glow back at you. I seen that at Carter's
Really?
last
Yes.
year.
Wow. need to
Really,
do
I did
that.
not know that.
We
So
need
there
to
you
do
go.
that.
That'd
You
be
won't
fun.
see a ton of them, but
My buddy got
Up against
snagged
the
up
dam?
at Carter's. We were fishing the dam at Carter's, and I had to. He was stuck on a log up on the dam, and he could find the one log in 8 miles of dam.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the spotlight, and I shined the spotlight, and all I see are all these little glowing things in the water, and they were walleye down there, the glowing eyes looking back at me.
Really?
And see,
Okay.
that's interesting what Aaron Russell just said too, talking about the walleyes. He said catch them occasionally around the herring spawn stuff. I wonder, it's like wonder how long it's going to take them to kind of really start kind of adapt. And obviously, from what Aaron said, there's some of them are starting to try to eat. They're starting to realize that the herring is the
They'll eat a herring.
prime rib of the
you'll
lake.
see, and you'll see guys catch them on down lines occasionally in the summer. Somebody will catch one on the herring.
Yeah.
But I think it the novelty of it intrigues me. It'd be nice. I like to eat them.
Yeah.
Nice
they're
to have
great.
yeah.
enough so you can go target.
Yeah. Both the ones
Yes.
I
Yeah.
caught, they
Yeah.
went home.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's-
I'm gonna have the unpopular opinion: flatheads are better than walleye. I'm saying it.
As far as
Give me
table
a
fare,
flathead catfish over walleye any day of the week.
but you're a Yankee, man. I just
They
threw that out
taste
there.
much better. If you ever eat the belly meat on a flathead, it is phenomenal.
Now he's going to
It-
say something out of salt though. Right.
Well, no, I'm not going to go there, but I'm not sure. Flathead belly is excellent,
Yes.
but I'm not sure. If I was at your house and you offered me walleye or flathead, I would probably
I think
take the
walleye
Take the
walleye.
tastes
walleye.
like whatever you fry it in. If you bread it in this, it tastes like that
Uh-huh.
bread. Walleye's just very.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's why I better them than fig Newtons. They're just really good.
Fig Newtons are great.
Fig Newtons make everything better.
All right, let me take time to get our last sponsor in here. J&S, Jason Sayers with J&S Contracting and Elite Landscaping and Pressure Washing. Guys, 706-816-2049. He serves the Lake Country down there. Pretty much anything you can do, construction or with the house, whether it's, building something, adding to it, getting something remodeled, or just cleaning up the house in the yard. Jason Sayers is your guy right there, is his number. Definitely give him a call. Spring's coming up. You're going to want a good landscaper and stuff like that. Got to get your house clean. We know the missus is probably on your list of things to do like it is mine. So call Jason, 706-816-2049, and give him a call and tell him the guys at Fish North Georgia told you about him. Tons of great comments and questions. Let's see. There's so many questions. It's hard. I wanted to say that there was a gentleman from Central Virginia I saw in the comments. Haven't seen too many people from Virginia on here, but want to definitely say thank you for watching us tonight. We appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. And
There you go.
right there.
For a second there.
Oh goodness, multi-species now. Terry, are you still catching flatheads?
Do I still fish for them? Yeah. Am I fishing for them right now? No, I'm stuck on stripers.
Stuck on the
Now
stripers.
until probably April.
Right. So that's Ryan. Derek wants to know how your dad life is going, real quick.
It's going great, Derek.
There you go.
Appreciate it.
Have any of you ever fished on the, and I hope I pronounce this right, the Osage or the Osage River? Osage River.
I have
Have not fished the Osage right there. So, Jeremiah wants to know, do the Chattahoochee striper reproduce naturally, or are they also stocked because they're plentiful and big? Also, why are the river striper larger than the reservoir striper? I don't have an answer to any of those. So,
Well, I
That's
think
a
the
deep
bigger
answer.
stripers go further upriver due to temperatures pushing them further up the rivers.
right?
At least in the hooch, the bigger ones got to keep finding that cooler water refuge, so they keep going up. The smaller stripers are a little more tolerant, so the bigger stripers tend to go up further.
You think that?
And-
That's a good reason
And
as
in
any.
Tennessee, it's
Well,
just
them big striper need some serious oxygen to.
yeah.
Oh, his
To
oxygen
live.
requirements
Yeah.
are substantially bigger.
Yeah.
Greater
The
than
bigger the
smaller
fish, the
fish.
more oxygen it needs.
Let me ask y'all this, and you can answer this. A lot of people don't realize this, but when we were fishing in the Coosa with Sagrasar up there, he was taking cut bait. He was taking gizzard chat and throwing it on the bottom. We were throwing on, and we would catch a catfish, but we were catching stripers that way.
Oh, they love cut bait.
They love cut bait. So, you ever do that in a reservoir?
I do not, and I probably should because it is
I
a
used to
very
do more
good
of it,
technique, and it's a really good way to catch big fish.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And here's another thing that was interesting is he would take a gizzard shad. That day, that's what he was fishing with. He would cut the head off, throw it away, cut the tail off, throw it away.
Yeah.
So all the section that had guts in it. And then he would cut that up into 3 or 4 sections. We throw it out on the bottom. If we didn't get a bite, he would say, oh, the guts are gone. He would reel it up, and every single time they were gone, if the guts stayed intact, we got bit. So what does that go to as far as a striper? Their sense of smell, or just
Absolutely.
opportunistic, or what?
No, I think cut bait's effective because you put a chum slick in the water, for lack of a better term,
Okay.
and it works. Other lakes it's more popular.
Yeah.
Going to Carolinas, it's a much more utilized technique. It does work here, and used to we did that.
Yeah,
a lot. I mean, it was really, and when we got herring and you could buy herring, I think that changed the dynamics of the market.
Okay.
And more people went with herring, and it's, they're effective. It was easy to do. Cut bait is a lousy way to look for fish, because you've got a couple of ways you can do it. You can either run your boat up on the beach and throw cut bait out behind you. You can anchor the boat, but if you're going to anchor, you have to anchor it on both ends, which is really hard. So what you do is you run up and drop an anchor. You got two anchors in the boat. You go up and drop the first one. Maybe you got 200 feet of line. You lay out 200 feet. You drop the back anchor. Then pull yourself back up to the front anchor, cinch everything off, and then throw cut bait around the boat. We got a lot of timber, which makes it harder here than some lakes, and
That makes sense.
But if guys would do it, it's good and it has its place, but it's underutilized here for those reasons.
There was a time, like say back in 2010, 8-ish, where I would be back at Black Creek. You'd see stripers deeper, in 30. You're over 40-foot bottom. They're down at 35-ish. You can't get them to bite, and there were days you beat yourself over by one shoal marker back there, and brought cut bait. And it wasn't. You weren't looking for numbers, that's for sure.
Right.
But you catch a catfish here, catfish there. But every hour or so you get a good zinger and a nice 15, 20 pounder.
Well, there was a time too, really before that, and some of it I think this was before you were here, but because we didn't know a lot about stripers and cut bait, particularly in the winter. If you go back far enough, people did not fish for stripers in the summer.
Yeah.
They quit fishing for them in March. And I guess I really, as a guide, I knew that I had to work all year. So, and I grew up in Greenville fishing Lake Hartwell, and we didn't fish in the winter.
No.
We fished in the summer, caught plenty of fish. I thought, well, it'll work here, and it did.
Right.
But prior to that, a lot of people spent their winters cut baiting with cut trout.
Okay.
And that was probably produced some of the biggest fish ever taken out of this lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not great for numbers, like Terry said, but
Right. When do stripers run up the chastity?
When do stripers run at the chastity? Once we get over 55, I'd say some fish will start making a push up there.
yeah, I think 55 is a magic number, but you might see some fish going earlier.
Yeah.
You'll see some false runs where you get a false thaw and a few of them start up, and then you get
And
the big
males
rain
will
up.
probably push up.
Yeah,
there
some of the
first.
little guys.
Males get a little overexcited looking for some action, so they head up there.
Boy,
Sometimes
don't we all?
They're
all?
at the bar waiting for the women to show
Don't
up
we all?
sometimes.
We all do that. Elliott Outdoors, real quick. I want to tell you that you can hit me on. You can direct message me on Messenger on Facebook if you want to give me your email address right there, and I will get in touch with you that way. If you have Facebook, you can do that. So,
Yeah, I remember
All right.
when I
definitely
first
can
moved
do
down
that.
here having a color graph, even
I'm
hot
curious about this question.
The old
look at this.
LCX.
Yeah.
LCX.
okay. So,
LCX.
all right. So, listen to this question. Always heard that bluebacks had turned the walleye sterile. Could just be a rumor. Several people have heard that before. Have you ever heard anything like that, Captain Mack?
I have not, and I can't verify that. I can't refute it either, but I don't think that's the case.
How would they even do that?
That's what I'm thinking biologically. I don't know.
There's something negative. I've read and I don't remember the
Yeah,
specifics of it, but there is some negative protein or something that they have. You know the information?
Yeah, I've heard that as well. They produce it's a protein or an amino acid in the meat that the predator that eats them, it inhibits their ability to reproduce. Either it throws off their hormones or something that causes them to either not produce as many eggs or not produce
Or
like-
sterile eggs.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Okay.
Amino acids make sense.
It makes sense.
No,
you know.
I've heard that about Fontana specifically.
And
Yeah.
maybe walleye
There
are
was
more
some
susceptible
specific
to
place
that.
that I've
So
heard
why
about
does that not
Yeah.
affect the bass?
Well, I would say, yeah. I mean, and it could be like that species just doesn't have the
But
tolerance.
then herring in some lakes destroy it. Herring in some lakes like Lanier propagate it to make it better. You know,
I'm
it's-
very curious to see over the next
That's why
5
DNR
years
agents
what
get so scared
Allatoona.
of
Now
them.
that
They don't know which way
Allatoona
it's gonna
has
go when they show up,
bluebacks
you know?
and the stuff, I'm curious to see how it changes
I'm
that
curious
fishery.
to see if their spot fishery develops like this one did.
Right.
With the advent of herring. That's
Yeah,
what I
and
think will happen.
we've noticed on Allatoona this year, just kind of watching some of the tournament weigh-ins and stuff, just kind of keeping track. It's getting the spot quality.
Fish.
Yeah, the spot quality seems to be jumping up.
Herring will do it.
Yeah, and they got herring and they got the what's the one in Carter's?
Alewife.
Alewife.
The alewife. So they've got that. So, but I'm curious to see what it does over the next 5 years. If it,
I am too, but I think that's what you'll see. I think you'll see their spots get out of that range where you got a bunch of little guys.
I hope so, because Altoona's fun to fish, but they've got a lot of little. They got the big ones. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking
there's
it.
some nice fish in
There's some
there.
nice fish. in
Their
there.
average size stands to go up with the introduction.
Right. Yeah. So I got that. So
That's what I think.
we got any other questions that I'm missing so far?
Ever been to Montauk?
I've never been to Montauk. Henry has.
Henry has.
They
Okay.
actually kicked him out of there, but before he fished there quite a bit before they relegated.
Have you tried to
Them up,
catch him
send
on a
us out.
fly? Have you gone with Henry and tried
Yeah, I've
that?
actually caught one with Henry with a fly.
Have you? How
Henry
hard
got-
is it?
It's not well. Okay, I don't want to. It's not hard in the right situation, and it's
Oh,
not
Henry
hard
just
for a
said
guy
it's not
like
hard,
Henry.
Henry.
I don't think most people realize what level of fly fisherman Henry is.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, he's
I mean,
world
you're
class.
talking about guys like Lefty Cray and people like that.
Yes.
He is on that level. He's very accomplished, and us in the bass fishing conventional world don't realize that. So for a guy like Henry, it's pretty practical. It's very situational. Any fly fisherman's going to be limited to circumstances. But yeah, Henry and I actually shot a film. I'll see one pop up here now and then, fly fishing for stripers.
Yeah, I mean,
In the 80s, we probably shot
Southern-
that.
Probably shot that long
Impoundment
ago.
striped bass, he is the lefty cray. You know?
He is.
No question.
Yeah.
He's in a very elite group.
Terry, real quick, what's your YouTube channel?
There already.
My YouTube, actually, that's a pretty interesting thing. My YouTube channel is called Jersey Catch Fishing Adventures. I'll keep this brief. If y'all could go check it out and help me out, YouTube actually killed my channel recently because people were pushing me to do more shorts. And I started making shorts, and it absolutely destroyed my impressions and outreach in my long form channel.
Okay,
I
so
went from
go help
getting
him out right
500
there.
to 1,000 views, pumped out a bunch of shorts for a couple
Yeah.
weeks span, and now my videos are having a hard time cracking.
nerd.
100.
I understand. Yeah, well, so that's
So
part.
I'm
That's
gonna
part of
start
them
up a second channel
algorithms.
for the shorts. We're not doing shorts no more.
I think
Okay.
we got one more real. We got to hit this question.
Well,
before we
let
get
me
done.
say hello
What
to
you got?
Mike Benton real quick because he's watching in Memphis. Anytime we get somebody out of state, I love to say hello. We appreciate you guys.
Will you please explain
Lead
to the audience why lead core line can be beneficial in trolling?
Well, that's a very good question. Lead core, if you're not familiar with it, is actually a lead line. It's got a nylon sheath around it. And what it does, it allows you to get a light bait deep. It's color coded, so you have a counting mechanism. It changes colors every 30 feet. So if you read a fishing report that said, I'm catching fish with lead core line, I'm fishing 8 colors back, and I'm using a 2-ounce jig, you've got a good idea how deep you are. The only thing that would probably be more accurate would be a downrigger, but it's very effective. It's relatively affordable,
Yep.
and it's a good technique. It works.
Okay.
But that's it. It's a weighted line with a counting mechanism that lets you get if you want to use a 1-ounce bucktail, you can get the depth you need without.
Understand.
And for you bodybuilders, it's great for the forearm, and you will get a good workout with it.
I bet you will.
Yeah, because normally, when to translate that, if you're fishing 8 colors back, you're
Yeah.
talking about having 240 feet of line in the water plus your leader. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got the fish is a football field behind you.
Yeah, and plus the boat's usually still going because you have other lead core lines out there. So you're
Yeah.
fighting the current, the fish, the lead, the line.
I understand. That's pretty good. Let's get a couple more of these questions in before we call it a night. Do you use spoons at all for stripers? If so, where and under what conditions?
Oh gosh, I think it's
Yes.
one of the most underutilized striper baits. Right now, you should always have one tied on for one. It's got multiple applications too. A vertical jigging spoon. Stripers are quick to eat, especially the smaller ones.
Yeah.
If you've got them and there's any density, and density to me is the key.
Yeah.
If you see a fish down there, maybe you catch him, maybe you don't. If you see 38 of them, one of them's probably going to eat it.
And one key factor too is I was trying to spoon on a fish a couple weeks ago, but the one thing that was hurting me was we weren't using the US2 transducer up front while we were pulling bait. So by the time I was seeing the fish on our sonar, we were already past
He's
them.
an
Already
afterthought.
passed 'em.
Yeah.
So when I would start dropping the spoon, those fish are already 20
Well,
feet
that's why-
behind. Yeah.
I keep a bow-mounted sonar unit
Yeah.
on my boat for that very reason. My boat's a center console, but it's basically a giant bass boat with no carpet.
Yeah.
Is the way I've got it set up. But yes, spoons are very viable. I would not have go on the lake now and not have one tied on. They catch everything that eats a fish will eat a spoon, and yeah, it really right up until March, it's very underutilized.
This
Yes,
is
Yeah,
This
the
is what I'm
flexible, smaller white spoons this
Yeah.
time of year is
Yeah.
one of my favorites. I actually went and got another transducer cable extension so I could go back to use
Yeah.
my US2 so I can get back to spooning.
Okay.
And it's a fun bite.
Explain to me power reeling.
power reeling is
Speaking
Yeah.
of spoon fishing,
primarily a warm water technique, deep water technique. When you find fish, I've caught them as early as June, but usually it's a July, August, September thing. And the whole crux of it is You're going to take usually a Parker spoon. It's probably the most prominent lure. A bucktail does well, but you're going to take it and drop it under the fish. If the fish are 60, drop your bait to 80. If the fish are 80, drop it to 100. If the fish are on the bottom, drop it to the bottom. When it hits whatever that depth of the bottom is, you just start reeling it up at a pretty brisk pace. And if the fish are showing up on your graph from 60 to 40, reel it up to the shallowest fish you see. If you haven't got a bite, you kick it out of gear and let it go back again, and you just keep doing that. It's vertical.
So you're just bringing it up through them.
Yeah.
And I normally
Burn it through.
I burn it pretty fast. A line counter reel is imperative for that. I'd usually just reel it. I pause it a lot, but as far as it's not vertical jigging. I want it under the fish. I'm going to blow it up through him and past him. And I think what it does, the fish is positioned in the water, and everything we do. If you think about it, everything we do is on this plane, right? We don't present anything this way. So they're sitting there doing whatever they're doing, and here comes this bait pretty quick beside him. He's got to make his mind up, either let it go or eat it. Pretty darn quick.
I call it the fight or flight bite.
That's it. And it's my favorite way to catch a fish.
Eat now or miss the meal.
Exactly.
You know, 9 times out of 10, they'll jump on it just out of reaction. Like, oh, God, what is it?
Yeah.
You know.
Very effective. It's a good way to catch big fish.
What size spoon?
And it's a good way to turn on fish, too, that aren't necessarily eaten.
Even if you're using live baits,
Yeah.
power reel. If you got 4 baits down there and you don't have fish on, pick up a rod and start power reeling, because you can pull fish into your bait spread, or the spoon is an attractant, even if they don't bite it, which usually they'll bite it as quick or more quickly than live bait.
We got a question with that spoon on YouTube and here on TikTok. What size spoon?
Usually it's the Parker spoon. The 8 or the 6 inch are both effective.
So it's a pretty decent sized spoon. We ain't talking about the little bitty one. We're talking
we're
about
talking
the
about a Ben
full-fledged
Parker
spoon.
Magnum spoon.
Okay.
And they make it in an 8, and they actually make a 9. But if I had to pick one, I like the big one because I want it to displace more water and be more, I won't say visible, but be more, what's the right word, Terry? I want him to feel it. I want him to know it's there, and that big spoon displaces more water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that is...
What's up, TikTok?
Yeah, the 6 inch. The only disadvantage, if you're fishing on a lake that has a lot of hybrids and using that 8 inch spoon, remember it's 8 inches. You can put assist hooks on them. I don't like to use them because they tear the fish all to pieces. But they will increase your hookup ratio. But if you don't have an assist hook on there, you're talking about something that's almost as big as that cup. There's a lot of places he can grab it and not get hooked up. The smaller spoon will get you a little bit higher percentage of hookups. If you got hybrids, it'll definitely raise your hookup ratio.
Yeah.
It's a great technique. I've got a lot of that on my YouTube channel. If you're not power reeling in the summer, you are missing out. It's fun and it's productive.
Yeah, you can do it with bucktails.
Yeah.
Bucktail, a big 2 ounce bucktail does
Swim
really well
baits,
for that.
yeah.
Big swim
Okay.
baits, yeah.
All right, let's do. There's 2 questions that are very similar. We're going to end the night on these questions right here. Farmer and Lanier catfish right there. Basically talking about the gill maggots, the gill lice, and the parasites and all that. Are there any concern they will return? Or what have you seen recently concerning
Well, they
the
never
gill
left.
maggot?
They're still here, but like, as we were talking upstairs, they don't seem to be having the impact that, and they're not as numerous in the fish that I'm
The
catching
infestation level's way down.
these days. Yes.
Okay.
Here's the thing with gill maggots. We've got a lot of lakes. They're
Yeah.
full of gill maggots. They're productive lakes. I think what happened, and when they get introduced to a lake and they come into a body of water, the lake, the maggots, they don't know what their carrying capacity is.
Yeah.
So when they first come in, they explode. So you've got real high infestation. Normally, it doesn't affect the fish negatively if there's not a second or third level of stress. So they're here. They'll probably never go
Yeah,
away. You
they're-
can't eradicate them. But like Terry said, you catch a fish now, you have to look for them.
Yeah.
And used to, we called them.
Yeah, when they first showed up, I didn't want to touch.
You didn't want to put your thumb in
I
his
didn't want to
mouth.
even. You looked inside
That
the mouth, it's like
nasty.
you felt bad for them.
Yeah, and they look.
Really?
And let's face it, is there a more negative word in the language than a maggot's just nasty? It's nasty.
Right, it is. It is.
So,
You're right.
and you'd see them. But yeah, to answer your question, they're here. They won't go away, but they're probably not going to do any damage. Lake Lanier's very healthy. If you want to eat the fish, the infestation will not affect. It's not. It's a non-factor now. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
I
good.
think the fish, if everything's kind of leveled out.
Well, they found their carrying
Yeah.
capacity. Everything's fine. We're good. So
Perfect. Absolutely. All right, Mac. So before we call it a night, I want to give you one more chance to shout out your website and your social media. I know you just said
Yep.
YouTube channel, so let's let everybody know where they can find you.
The
at.
website's Captain Max. The same as my YouTube channel. Spell it out.
Is that where the fishing reports get posted?
The fishing report will be on the Facebook page.
On the
Captain
Facebook
Max,
page,
every
okay.
Friday night. And then the Insta is mac.farr. and TikTok's the same. We're new on TikTok, but we're trying to ramp that up. And yeah, give us a shout. And for all those that follow us, and we really appreciate it. Very much grateful
absolutely. And
for
you
that.
can get all of Captain Mack's product. I mean, you're in some pretty big stores too. Are you not?
We're very fortunate. We have a pretty good retail presence, and we're grateful for those guys, and they're really valuable business partners.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find us most local retailers.
Most local retailers and stuff like that. All right, Terry, give us your social
Jersey
shout
Catch
out.
Fishing Adventures on YouTube. That's my main thing. I like the long form videos. I do the whole trip. I also have a TikTok, Jersey Catch Fishing. Yeah, Jersey Catch Fishing. I'm on Instagram, Jersey Catch Fishing. I've been doing a lot of fishing with another gentleman named Lanier Striper Snipers. You've got Matthew Haynes. Check his channel out too. He's got some cross videos of him and I fishing together. And I fish for everything and I go everywhere.
Okay. All right. Yeah, well, there you go. I like that.
I was
So-
in Alabama last week, so
Appreciate you guys watching.
Yeah, on TikTok. Hey, yeah, and we're going to get a really good camera set up with that, but I appreciate you guys coming in there.
Yep.
All right, so, guys, I'm going to end this episode. First of all, I want to thank Captain Mack, not only for coming up and doing this show, but also, again, he recorded a one-on-one podcast with us. You guys, if you go to Fish North Georgia's Patreon, you can check that thing out. Go over there and join that, and you'll get all our one-on-one podcasts. But, again, Mack, I mean, your reputation precedes you, and we always – enjoy seeing your stuff on social media. But like you said before, we've been trying to do this for a while, and I've really enjoyed you being in the house tonight because, again, not only can you enunciate and speak in complete sentences, but you got a lot of great information that you put out there.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. It was a fun evening. I hope everybody enjoyed it that was watching.
How about this? If somebody wants to book a guide trip with you, how can they get in touch with you?
Best thing, just go to the website there.
Go to the
Captain Mack.
website.
Yep.
All right, that is absolutely awesome. And you doing any guide trips?
not yet.
Not
there
yet.
Might be something.
Might be
in the
something
works
done.
down
Okay,
the road.
I didn't know. So,
I
guys,
don't want to announce anything until it's.
absolutely, I understand. Guys, I want to again thank all of our great sponsors: Buford Dam Bait and Tackle, For Her Outdoors, Rachel Collins with 400homes.com, Red Bobber and Jason Sayers with J&S Contracting and Elite Landscaping. We've appreciated your time tonight. If you're watching this in the future, again, thank you as well. Make sure you go check us out on all our social media. Fish North Georgia on Facebook, the Fish North Georgia group page, IG, Twitter, TikTok. We didn't name it anything. That's pretty consistent down the line. We're Fish North Georgia and everything
Don't
right there.
forget our Patreon.
And don't forget the Patreon. One cool thing about the Patreon, a lot of teaching stuff on there. Ryan does a lot of lessons, and we're going to start bringing in some other guys to do some lessons. It's a great resource. It's a little more detailed than what you might get on our Livewell and stuff like that. So you guys go check that out and join us there. And again, until any of y'all fishing this weekend, I'm sure you're going to be working this weekend on the water.
I'm not. I've got this week. Yeah, Saturday. I'll be out Saturday.
Be out Saturday like that. It's going to be nasty weather.
Yeah, well,
Not as bad as Sunday.
Saturday.
Sunday's supposed to be.
Saturday's
actually
supposed to be okay.
Saturday was the best day we're going to have.
Is
out
Saturday
the
the
next
best
10.
day? I thought I'd come in Saturday and say, all right, well, there you go.
Saturday.
Enjoy Saturday if you're getting out on the water.
Yeah, 'cause
Sunday's
it's
going to be like
downhill after
garbage.
that.
Yeah.
So, guys, hey, we appreciate you. Again, check us out. Check out Captain Mack. Check out Terry. We will see you next Thursday. Who we got coming? Is it a trout episode?
Trout episode.
We're doing trout fishing next Thursday. So, again, getting a little bit of variety on our channel. So, you guys,
All about live bait.
huh?
Good.
Did you say live bait
It's
like
all
that?
about live bait.
All about live bait. Hey, guys, we appreciate your time. You guys be safe. We'll see you.
Take care.